Just 2 months ago, we already finished the first season of the RaceRoom Ranked season, but now we come back for season 2. We had an incredible season of racing in the GT3s, the GT4s, and the M235Is as well. That saw Max Pfeiffer, Alexander Grunwald, and Mihai Neg taking the 3 championships there. But we now have a new season of 4 brand new races and also some different cars that we'll get into as well. We already had the F4s yesterday, and we'll also get into that. But now, first of all, we'll be going into the WTCR Trophy that will be coming your way, of course, with the qualifying up first. This is myself, Cameron Rodger. Joined with me for this first race is Ewan O'Leary. And Ewan, it was an amazing end to the season. We saw just a couple of points between drivers, and I think it's going to be just that close this season as well.
Well, let's certainly hope so. You're absolutely right there. It was an amazing end to the first season of the RaceRoom Ranked Championship. Thoroughly enjoyable. The best thing, I guess, was the surprises that we got towards the end. We thought Ilya Drobisikov was sure to get that M235i championship, but in the end, he lost out by 2 points, as you say. Max Pfeiffer barely held on to a pretty nice championship lead, actually, by 2 points as well. So those were 2 pretty big shocks, and they were very enjoyable to watch play out over the 4 rounds. We've got another 4-round championship here today. That's some different circuit, or here this season, I should say. Some different circuits on the list, which is good to see, of course, and some different cars on the list as well, as we'll get into. But yeah, this season does promise to be as good as, if not better, than the first.
Yes, so as with last season, we have the 3 different categories. So we have the rookies, which last season, as we said, was in the BMW M235i. That has changed now to the F4, which is a very popular car indeed. That race happens on a Wednesday. So that happened yesterday, and we will show you highlights in between the 2 races that we've got for you tonight. Then the second division is the AM category. This is the World TCR Trophy. That has obviously moved over from the GT4s. So a little bit of front-wheel drive action and some interesting racing that can happen with that car as well. And also a very popular car. So there's some very good names in that. And that will be coming your way with obviously a slightly shorter race of 30 minutes before, as we said later on, we get to the GT3 Pro Series. This is an expanded race now where we go to a 60-minute race for that category. So that is going to be very interesting how those drivers are going to work it out, because obviously fuel mileage and stuff like that is going to come to play, isn't it, Ewan?
It certainly is. I mean, all of the things that make one of these races so good are going to come into play there. We've got 60 minutes, as you say, and a mandatory pit stop for the drivers to make as well throughout that pro race. So that really will kind of throw things up in the air a little bit as well, and just make things that little bit more exciting. But I guess the only real kind of frustration I had with last season, the racing was fantastic. You know, everything about it was really good, but just wished sometimes that the races would be a little bit longer, especially for the Rookie Cup, where the races were very short indeed. We've certainly got that here in this season. 30 minutes for the touring car race, which is bang on really for them, and some great circuits for those cars as well. And then a 60-minute GT3 race. It's obviously the almost formal distance for them in terms of sprint racing anyway. We do see that quite often. So these drivers are going to be very much used to it. And it's a distance that makes a bit more sense, really. A mandatory pit stop as well, just adding a little bit of a layer of excitement to that one as well.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great season. As you say, we've got some different tracks coming your way. So we do have the Hockenheimring today, as you can obviously see in the background, a great circuit. Everyone should know that one. Very popular indeed. And it should actually provide some pretty good racing for those cars. Before round 2 in 3 weeks' time, we go to the Red Bull Ring before following on to the Daytona International Speedway, which is always an amazing circuit as well, with the ovals, with the banking and everything that brings. Before on the 10th of November, we finish at Interlagos as well. So yeah, 4 amazing circuits for us to see how it's all going to play out. But as with season 1, Ewan, just 4 races is not very long for you to get your points down, so you can't really be making any mistakes.
No, you can't. We said this last season. There's no drop rounds or anything. It's only 4 rounds. You really do have to get yourself in order and really get all of your rounds together to have a good championship. And in the end, we saw that even with Drobisikov, who I think won the first 3 races, didn't he, of last season, but then still ended up losing the title. So even with 3 race wins, you need that consistency. You need to have 4 good races to be able to win a title here. Yeah, that is an advantage of having such a short season. It pretty much guarantees that we'll get a nice championship finale as well into Lagos, which we're very much looking forward to coming up in the middle of November. But I've got to say, the tracks I'm most looking forward to, definitely the Red Bull Ring and Daytona, particularly when it comes to those touring cars, because they're a little bit slower. they'll be spending a lot of time on those straights, and there'll be a lot of slipstream going around as well. So the field will stay very, very close together throughout that half an hour.
Yeah, half an hour is long enough for it to be obviously a strategic race, but at the same time, as you say, everyone's going to be staying close together. The gaps aren't going to be opening up, and therefore you have the sort of the opportunity as a driver to maybe be patient and try and work out exactly how you're going to work out the race. You obviously have that long straight through the parabolica into the hairpin, and that's really going to be the most important overtaking point of this track.
It certainly is. It's going to be the sticking point as well, really, with regards to this one. It's going to be the danger point for any incidents that may happen. It's such a tight hairpin down there at the bottom of the course, and I'd be very surprised if we don't see at least one incident going into there. The rest of the circuit, relatively difficult to overtake, really. You just need to stay as close as you possibly can, especially when you're going through that final section of corners, through the kind of Mercedes arena, if you like. It's a pretty tricky section of corners, and you need to stay as close as possible, especially in those GT3s to try and set yourself up for a move. But yeah, definitely watch out for that hairpin where things are going to be very, very squeaky indeed, possibly on occasion.
Absolutely, and the qualifying in the background has now started for these WTCR cars coming out for this category race. And of course there are other splits going on at the same time as well, and we are showing you the top split. So if you do want to get yourself involved, get yourself on the RaceRoom Discord, find out all of the announcements, and see when you can sign up for that next race in 3 weeks time as well, when we go for the Red Bull Ring. But for now, look at all this traffic on the screen. It is going to be so tough for these drivers to try and get a lap here. But for the likes of Gianmarco Fiducci, obviously top level driver here, knows what he's doing in these cars, and at this level, you're going to be looking for someone like him to find that free space and get that lap in.
You certainly are. You need to. I mean, look at how busy it is. My goodness, there's so many cars out there at the moment, just trying to get some. Clean track here and just get a clean run at this. It's going to be very, very difficult, though. There's so many cars out there on the grid that it just makes things very, very difficult indeed. And we're just going to see nobody really able to get a clean run at this by the looks of it. At the moment, they do need to sort themselves out a little bit. As we look at Fiducci, one of those drivers who we really are expecting to do very, very well indeed in this championship here today, and that there are plenty of those up and down the grid, but not only in the WTCRs, of course, but in the GT3s a little bit later on as well. There's some very, very top level names that I'm sure we'll get through throughout the evening.
Yeah, we certainly will. It's great to see that this RaceRoom Ranked Season 2 has just been taken to that next level. Season 1 was a great explainer for everyone what it's going to be and what potentially the future of RaceRoom is going to be, having these more official races, getting live streams, getting yourselves out there, and really adding some more broadcasted high-level competition to RaceRoom, at least from the ranked side of it. So everyone here obviously has their reputation levels that you can get from the normal ranked races. And then this is obviously the more top level of that, as the drivers now start to line up, come around the final corner to open up this lap. And it's only a 10-minute qualifying session, so there's already 7.5 minutes left. And as always, when that timer hits 0, that is session done. So they've only got really sort of 3 laps or so in this session that they can do.
Well, the slow outlaps and the jockeying for position that's been going on has really meant that the time for these laps really now reduced in this race at the moment, so or in this qualifying session at the moment. So it's going to be very, very pressure on for all of these drivers. You do need to get your lap in and get a clean lap in here in this race, really, and so to get yourself up towards the front. But yeah, I mean, not a long qualifying session as you say there, and not a short circuit either, especially in these cars. So you aren't going to get many laps in, and that's going to prove very, very tricky for all of these drivers. You just see how busy it is out there at the moment. There's so many different drivers just trying to get their way around, trying to set the best lap time. It's very, very difficult indeed to find any sort of free track space. But yeah, just trying their best as things stand. Very, very difficult.
Yeah, certainly difficult, because in some ways you want to use the car ahead of you as a bit of a reference. But if cars are getting out of your way, braking later, maybe you're faster than the car ahead of you, it can just be really off-putting, actually. Of course, you get a little bit of slipstream down the straights, but as you see here, coming into this stadium section, it's all tight corners towards the end. There's a little bit of a slide there for Fiducci, losing a bit as they're getting Sebastian Ray going towards the top on the 47.9. Just Schmidt a couple of tenths behind behind him as well, as you see drivers in the green going back to the pit lane to try and come out again. As Denez there, just 19 thousandths of a second off that provisional pole at the moment. Certainly going to be close times around here.
It is going to be very close, and these cars are going to produce very close times as well, really, as Finucci makes his way out the final corner right now, just trying to battle with this at the moment towards the line. He only goes 6th, but after all, he is just under 4/10 away from Sebastian Rea out the front. There he is from Maniti Racing, obviously a very, very strong driver, and very well known as well to those of you who are with us regularly here at RaceRoom. He's a strong driver. He was part of the GT3 Championship last season, where he managed to get a top 10. He'll be looking for bigger and better things throughout this race. And he certainly does know his way around a GT3, there's no doubt about that. We saw that at the Spa 2.4 hour not so long ago as well, the last GT3 event we had there. So that was a good performance from him there, but at the moment it's the touring cars where he's really shining right now, and it looks like he's not only holding this pole position, but even going that little bit faster as well.
Yeah, it might be. A couple of purple sectors already coming to the Sachs curve. And this is, as we said, the technical part of the track. So this is where the better drivers can gain the time. And with these being front-wheel drive cars, you have to be that little bit, have a little bit more finesse on the front end, especially when you're trying to go for these long corners, having the accelerator on. If you go too much, obviously, you're just going to understeer wide. But right now, towards the line, he's going to be able to improve his time. Currently 1.5 tenths up there on that pole position. And it looks like he actually, in the end, wasn't able to go quicker, but the times are still very close behind, as Rodger goes up into 3rd place as well. So certainly a lot of these drivers trying to gain just a few tenths, and that will be a few positions at the moment.
It would. There's not very big gaps at all. McGlade didn't get a very good run through the first lap either. He is a strong driver, of course. He was part of the Cooper Sim Racing Series not too long ago, and using the same livery he did then, so he certainly knows his way around this car, and will be benefiting a little bit from a slipstream in front in this busy part of the racetrack. 24th, 25th at the moment, but jumps right up towards the front. That's exactly what we expect to see from the Russian, and maybe that's not got his way onto the grass going in towards turn number 1, and that might well be it for his session now, unless he can quickly get around for one final attempt. But he's only 29 thousandths away from Sebastian Rea at the moment. That's more like it, much more like what we expect to see from him.
Absolutely, he doesn't have time to go back, but look at that, 0.5 tenth for the top 3 in this race. It's certainly been an awesome qualifying session so far, but still some laps to come in. And just a second, covering the top 16 drivers as well. So certainly this is how we are going to see this WTCR category. It's going to be very close, it's going to be very tight, and just a few little differences here and there will be the overall outcome for this championship. And as the drivers there trying to get some space, we're currently having a bit of traffic with that 99 car just ahead of him as well. He is staying on this lap, so trying to do a couple of times in a row. As you say, when he gets to that 0, you're not allowed to finish your lap, it just ends, and then we'll see who is going to come out on top.
Yes, not long to go now for these teams, for these drivers, I should say, to get a lap in. I think Bukonin at least is going to get enough time to go back around here. Still 2.5 minutes remaining, and I think he's going to have time to get back to the line. It looks like he will, and so we will see one last attempt from him as well in this qualifying session to try and get ahead of Sebastian Rea. But let's not forget that the German will have the same opportunity as well. Pretty much every driver is out there right now aiming to improve. Not many in the pit lane, only 4 out of the 28 we've got there on in the order right now. So there's going to be a lot of late lap times coming in here, but these drivers are so good, of course, that it's very difficult to improve when you've set lap times like this, really. You kind of reach their limits very quickly indeed, so it remains to be seen whether they do actually have it in them to go any faster.
Yeah, you're right. They're pretty much on the limit of what they can do, and maybe if they do the absolute perfect lap, they can gain those extra couple of tenths. But to do that, you've got to be really on the limit. They're already braking as late as they can. They're taking as much minimum speed into the corners as they can, and yes, certainly difficult to improve from that, as we're already into the final minute and a half. So if you are starting your lap now, you will not have enough time to finish it with a 1:47 lap time, but it's still staying so close between all of these drivers, which is just what we want. Ray now coming around, but it doesn't look like he's improving though in that middle sector, and he might just be trying to hold on to this pole position, but it is so close behind him.
It is really, really close between those drivers behind. This is exactly what we expect to see, and we hope to see indeed in this series with these cars. And by the way, the Hungarians having a fantastic time of things at the moment. 4 of them inside the top 6. You see on the left-hand side there that Farkas is the lowest of them right now. But still not doing badly himself here. Purple in the first sector, going about a tenth quicker. And that, I think, is Mukoni just up in front, who's getting slightly held up a little bit on this lap as well. So he might not be able to improve enough to take the win away. Farkas might well be able to improve a few positions, though, as Verducci finally gets himself together and gets up to 4th place. That's the first real good lap we've seen from him, and it's got him right up to 4th.
Certainly has, and now 4 drivers within a 10 at the front, just so close. But Farkas here coming around the final 2 corners there, hitting that inside curb. This obviously results coming up on the screen, but as always, there's still a couple of seconds. You might be able to see him make a bit of improvement. Currently in that 7th place. Is there going to be a jump up? It looks like certainly is to pole position. Actually gets ahead of Sebastian Rey. That was an incredible final sector. Mukoni goes down to 3rd place there, and the number 25 Hungarian getting himself on that front row, which is a great improvement. Mukoni, as you say, maybe losing some time there as we got towards the end of that session, as you see the names run down here. A lot of names you'll recognize from the previous season. There's a lot of drivers also from the GT3s and the Rookie Cup as well, moving to this category for this season. But Ewan, that was certainly a very close qualifying session.
It was very close indeed. And all the usual suspects, all the names we'd expect to see there were up there by the end of that session. It did take a few of them a little while. We saw with Verducci there getting into the top 5 eventually, but he took his time doing so. And of course, late laps coming in to take pole positions away is what we always like to see, of course. But it all bodes very well for the race. It's going to be a different race to what we're going to see at the Red Bull Ring in Daytona, of course. The slipstream around there is going to be paramount, but towards the hairpin for the first time, it's going to be a bit messy, but after that, it's going to return into a more normal race, you would say, and hopefully an enjoyable one as well. But that's exactly what these touring cars are designed to do, really, produce a race like what we're about to see. Hopefully, it will be a good one, and that qualifying session does suggest to us that it may well be.
It is going to be a tight race. Half an hour of racing coming your way. Farkas on pole there with Sebastian Rey alongside. And we got 30 minutes of racing here for the first round of the RaceRoom Ranked Season 2 Championship. The WTCRs get underway as we come towards turn number 1. A brilliant start there from Farkas, having no defending at all as we come towards turn 1. Very easy there into that 2nd place. But side by side, a bit further back, Schmidt and Denez going side by side on the exit of turn number 1 as Verducci drops down there to 6th place already, with some drivers in the middle part of the field trying to go side by side in towards the braking zone. Verducci there almost 3 wide as we come towards turn number 2 and turn number 3 as we come out onto the back straight for the first time.
It was 3 wide in towards turn 2 there. That was not nice for those 3, but they've made it out alive, fortunately for them. And so has everybody behind by looks of things as well. We have had a spinner in the background, but nothing too much more than that as they make their way down towards the hairpin. This is where we outlined it could be trouble at the start of the race. Now Farkas has to defend quite heavily on the inside. He misses his braking point doing so, and Rhea follows him. Mukoni able to get 2nd place, might even be able to take the lead as well.
And more bumping as we come towards the hairpin a bit further back. All these drivers trying to get themselves into a good position. And as you say there, Mukoni trying to get a bit of a run, but actually in the end has to sit behind as we come in towards the arena section. Farkas still holding on to this lead at this moment in time, but Mukoni certainly right on his rear bumper as we come out up towards one of the fastest corners on the track. And Verducci there at the beginning went down to 6th place, but managed somehow there to get up into 4th place again, which is a really bold move. But you just know, of course, overtaking is possible, but still, you want to be towards the front. You want to have that track position, and that's certainly what Farkas has at the moment.
It was pure aggression, really, from him, but you wouldn't expect anything less here in touring cars. That is what they're there for, as he made his way through. Aggressive racing on the start, but it has just calmed down a little bit. This is the kind of thing we expect to see at Hockenheim with the craziness of the hairpin. We saw a lot of contact between drivers, especially down the back of the field, but after that, it does start to single file itself out. It does start to calm down a little bit, and a recognisable race will start to develop from there. But that doesn't mean it's going to be all follow the leader and all boring from here on in. It is going to be chopping and changing throughout. That hopefully we'll see up between these guys. But for now, it is single file. We have to go a long, long way back to get any side-by-side towards the back end of the top 10 indeed, with Popov trying to get through on Daniel for 9th place at the moment. But yeah, for right now, the top 10 staying largely single file.
Yeah, and that gap that Popov can see coming ahead between Orban and Daniel is certainly going to be something that he needs to look at and try and reverse as we come towards the hairpin. A bit of side-by-side as we come towards the braking zone, as we see some dive ones a bit further up as well. As Popov there going to do a bit of a switcheroo, try and come back as we come up towards the King. Contact though, a little bit further back. Fosto involved in that one with Lopez and Burkhardt also dropping some positions a bit further back as Popov has got up in towards that 9th place, where it looks like going side-by-side a bit further up as we're going side-by-side a little bit further behind as well. Sebastian Ray there. McConan is having a bit of a battle. McConan dropping off the back of Farkash as these guys try to battle themselves. Fiducci now coming down the inside as we come towards the very fast right-hander, diving in on the inside there as the Fortilla driver gets through up in towards 3rd place, but Ray's going to come back at it.
He is going to struggle to do so, though, and I think he might get overtaken by Denez as well. Oh, big dive from Fiducci, and contact between the two of them muscles him out as well on the outside line of the Sachs curve there, and so we'll be able to make his way through, although Rear not going to give up easily. They backdoors once again. Rear runs him out of road a little bit, out onto the drag strip on the outside of the penultimate corner, and once again Fiducci's going to have a run. Going to have the inside line as well, but he won't try and make a move into turn number 1, will he? Let's hope not, because it's a fastener, a committed corner, and not one you see moves made very often for good reason, but tension's certainly starting to rise between those two.
Well, they certainly are. No space given, as you say, and that can only make things a little bit worse as it snowballs. Actually, a little bit further behind. It looks like Denez trying to get involved, but not enough to get down the inside of Fiducci, but certainly thinking about it. But look at Fiducci there, literally pushing Ray as we come through now. The Parabolica trying to get the run all the way down this straight, very long straight indeed, although it is obviously just one long curve, and that makes the exit very important. Ray goes towards the inside of this hairpin corner. Fiducci on the outside there. It looks like Ray's going to be able to hold that track position, but Denez dives it down the inside into the space. Fiducci's going to have to hold it all the way around. He goes off the track even to continue with that one, but has to continue in that 5th place as it stands.
Yeah, this group is really where it's at the moment. The most of the battles are happening here. It's allowing the two leaders to get away. Farkas and Marconi, look at that dive again from Fiducci up the inside into the Mercedes corner there, and not able to get through once again into the Mercedes arena. Going to have to try and do it now, but outside line on the way into to here is never really going to get you anywhere. And so he's going to have to back out and watch out from behind as well, with the Hyundai trying to get involved. This is very good racing between them. Fiducci gets into the back of Rear now, unsettles the Peugeot, goes very wide, but once again Rear will not give up here.
He certainly won't, and that's one thing with the front-wheel drive. As Fiducci thinks about diving into the final corner, if you hit their front edge, you can really push them out. Fiducci there repays the favour. Last lap, it was the other way around, and there goes Fiducci up into the 3rd place, but no, it's not, because he gets bad exit. More contact between the two as they try and work this one out. It is getting very tense. We're only 5 minutes into this race. These guys need to watch out, because they have let the top two get away by 3 seconds, and now they just have a huge train of cars behind them.
Yeah, you almost feel like even at this distance to go that you can forget about the top two, because they've been fighting so hard here that they've almost cost themselves a chance at the race win. But tension between Fiducci and Rear now has transpired into a lot of contact being made, a lot of running, but it's touring car racing after all. It's exactly what we want to see. Nobody ending up off the road and in the wall, fortunately, but a lot of contact, a lot of leaning on each other, but it's going to continue down into the hairpin.
Yes, it certainly is. I think there's this is just going to get more and more as the race continues. As we come to the hairpin, once again Popov now making his way. Oh, that is a huge rear end though. Onto that, maybe Schmidt ahead of him. Huge contact between the two as he breaks too late. That breaks up the gap ahead of them, and now it's actually going to be Schmidt there and Orban going side by side as we come up towards the King. I don't think there's going to be too much love lost between these guys as the contact continues to come in. Always 3 wide in towards the braking zone. Popov thinking about diving in down the inside, but looks like Orban going to be holding it all the way around the outside, but Schmidt holding on to it as it stands, and Popov trying to get a bit of a run, but not at this moment in time. As we see at the front of the pack ahead of him, Fiducci's managed to hold on to that position. These guys just yo-yoing their positions all the time.
They really are. There's so much battling going on. It's absolutely fantastic to watch, even further back as well. And with the variety we've got back here, by the way, in terms of actual WTCR cars, is absolutely phenomenal, by the way. Renault on the outside of Audi here, but not going very well for Pippert there on the outside line. Ends up in the gravel, somehow doesn't end up in the wall, which is very easy to do around there at the Mercedes Arena section. But yeah, that was not ideal. for him. But yeah, as I say, fantastic variety here on RaceRoom to select. Obviously, the Cupra seems to be the car to have here today, with Farkas and McConan 1 and 2 in that car right now, and the podium being locked out indeed by this car right now. However, we are seeing great variety up and down the field, and some TCRs we really don't get to see very often.
Yeah, you're right. There's 14 TCRs to choose from, and we have pretty much all of them out there. There is a bit of a BOP. All of them have the 100% power, no restriction on power, but some cars, quite a lot of cars, have 5 kilo ballast, and then we have the Hyundai Elantra with a massive 20 kilos of ballast as well. And yeah, it's just amazing to see the different options of these drivers trying to work things out. It's a little bit further back there. We're trying to see some dive bombs as Dines is trying to get up the way there of Rodger. They're having a bit of a battle for that fifth place. Is Schmidt here in 7th, also trying to get himself away of Popov, who's got himself ahead of Orban as well. Orban, they're down to 9th place now, so literally every few corners these guys trying to switch positions and get themselves into a place a little bit further on. But all these battles are starting to splinter up this bigger train that we were having a few laps ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been fantastic touring car racing so far. It doesn't fail to disappoint us. I have to say, I didn't have great hopes for this race in terms of this circuit. I was wondering whether it would work or not. It certainly has done so far. The Mercedes Arena has not turned into a place where everyone's just following each other and it's follow the leaders. McConan has got off the road somewhere. It may have been a disconnection. Can't be entirely sure for the moment, but he's certainly dropping down the order, and I've got no sign of him out there. Oh, he has got off the road. My goodness, there's no front end on that car anymore. Don't know how that's happened, but I'm afraid that is going to be the end of... Oh, dear me, and he gets hit badly again. I wonder if he's in any control of that car at all. I don't think he is.
I do not think so either. I wonder if he's come into the Sachs curve, into that left-handed hairpin, and just gone straight on, which is why obviously the front end would be so badly damaged. But that was not a nice situation. McConan is going to be joining the DNFs. I would not be surprised as we had Tefo Duran already in that P29 DNF on that opening lap. So let's see how... if we can find out what has happened. But McConan there certainly going to be quite disappointed with the way that race has gone for him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a disappointment to see as Petter Daniel tries to make his way through at the moment. On the inside, there's a lot of late braking there and a lot of contact as well. We see that time and again in this race towards the hairpin. People not expecting the concertina effect, even though it's happening every single lap, and somebody going into the back of somebody else. Hopefully none of the positions changed as a result on that occasion. You'd think by this point in the race they would slightly be realising quite what's happening down in towards the hairpin and not make so much contact. But either way, it seems to still be happening at the moment. Meanwhile, up front, by the way, we're getting a little bit of words about Fiducci and his lack of force feedback by the looks of things. Certainly didn't have it in qualifying, maybe not now either. And if he's not got any now, then it's a really impressive drive. Maybe that's why he struggled to really get going in qualifying.
Yeah, maybe. No force feedback is very difficult indeed because, well, A, you have no physical feel of what's going on, but also it's not what you're used to. So your brain is going all over the place, wondering exactly how much you need to turn for these corners, because normally you turn in so much depending on the resistance. As we've seen McConan obviously on the timing screen just sort of move around as he's in the pit lane, but will now hopefully drop down to his correct position. So it is Farkas leading the way from Fiducci at this moment in time. Sebastian Ray there in 3rd place with Balazs and Frank Dines rounding out the top 5, but a little bit further back, even down in 25th place. They're going everything out. We got Van den Toorn here in 24th place, trying to work his way up, currently in that Honda Civic, and he's got definitely a few guys around him to fight with.
He certainly has. There's plenty of drivers to fight with back here, and indeed everywhere on the circuit, really. It's absolutely fantastic to get involved with. There's right around the outside there for Russell trying to go through but not able to. Looks like we will get some coming from behind here as well to try and make moves down towards the inside at the hairpin. Pitkoski in the slipstream in that Volkswagen at the moment, trying to get through on both of them, but won't be able to. We'll just have to watch this battle for 25th involved. Very late on the brakes. My goodness, that was Russell, I think, going very late on the brakes. The Spaniard too late on the brakes, I think it's fair to say, and he drops all the way to 28th in this race now. And that's not ideal. Far too late on the brakes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if that was late on the brakes. I don't think that was any brakes at all with how late that was. File shifter there goes a little bit too wide, drops down a position as Van Feitland gets up. Bit of contact, though, on the rear there from Van der Toorn as this battle continues up the way. We've also got Mukkonen still going down the leaderboard there. We'll try and ignore that one to avoid seeing some fake positions being moved. But for sure, there's quite a few positions still to be up for grabs, but all the way up and down this field. And of course, this is just going to work its way out. We've still got 17 minutes left in this race as they try to find out their positions.
Yes, proving to be pretty difficult, really. I have to say, I thought, I know I mentioned earlier that I didn't think this circuit would be fantastic for these cars, but I've been proven quite wrong. I did think the mentality of these drivers as well would be a little bit, let's take the first few minutes calmly, and then we'll start trying to attack. But for the first almost half of this race now, it's been all-out attack from start to where we are now, and hopefully it will continue on as well. Starting to see it less and less with the actual leaders as Farkas gets away from Panucci, or at least holds his margin over the Italian right now. Behind is where the battling is, and this is where we're at right now with the likes of Dennis and Popov having to defend quite severely down towards the hairpin with Spitz, down his inside, pushing him a little bit wide as well through the hairpin. Might allow Orban to get involved as well on the inside line. The two of them make contact again, but he hasn't quite got the run with the entire line he had to take out of the hairpin there. Didn't really get the run that he needed, and then once again there's going to be big dives into turn 8. Oh, too late, way too late.
Yeah, that was too late from Popov. He was going to say he was going to be a bit annoyed about being pushed out wide there, but in the end he's now lost 3 places himself with braking too late, down to 11th place as it stands. Orban and Daniel making up a place, and also Renta they're up into 8th place now as these guys still try and work their way up the top 10 as the gaps ahead of them are starting to spread out just a little bit, and therefore they will obviously have to be careful with this batting if they want to get up to those top positions. But that is why you need to get towards the front a bit earlier on in these races so you can have a bit more control and not get caught up in any of these massive battles that we have been seeing. And as it stands, Farkas still leads the way now by 3 seconds from Fiducci, another second back to Ray, another second back again to Noj, and then even another 2 second backs to Denez. So that is how the top 5 is spreading out.
Yeah, really spreading out inside the top 5, but just outside of it, as I mentioned, it is really enthralling battling at the moment. We're on board with Orban trying to make his way through on the best performing Alpha up the front of the field right now. Further up and behind as well, we have fights right from the very first positions to the very last. You can see in this group, this is a fight for 23rd place. Sarah van Fitland has currently got that place, but doing her best to try and hold on and having a difficult time of things, really, with 4 cars behind it, outbraking a little bit into turn 2 as well won't help, and there really could be a stack up into the hairpin now if there's going to be moves and all sorts going on at the front of this group. Things are going to get very, very difficult indeed for all of them. Yeah, it's just been very entertaining so far. However, Soderstedt at the moment not being entertained there. There's certainly been contact, and I get the feeling that he didn't do that on his own.
Yeah, going left into a right-hand corner probably is not what you want, especially, as you said, in these front-wheel drive cars, because most of the weight and most of the action happens on the front end. If you get hit sort of on the rear end, it can easily just spin the car out and go the wrong way, especially in a braking zone. If there's contact, we know there's a bit of rubbins racing in these touring cars. That can certainly be a factor for these drivers. As we focus now on this battle once again for the sort of lower part of the top 10. Renta there trying to get on the back of Schmidt there, with Orban just behind, as Daniel also there trying to work his way a bit further up into this race, as it seems that these guys are trying to be at this point in the race where they're trying to still be aggressive, but also they're trying to, I would say, not lose time, because the battling is certainly quieted down just a little bit for this last lap or so.
Absolutely, it has. This is more what I expected earlier on in the race, as I mentioned, but now it has finally started to develop, although considering how close we are to the end of the race now, it's not the kind of mid-portion of the race, if you like, a typical mid-portion of a race where things slow down a bit and they go a bit single file. It's going to be very short, because we're going to get to the end phase of the race very soon, where everybody's going to start to eye up the positions in front of them and think, well, I'd like a bit of that, and so there will be a few moves coming up very soon as well. So the excitement is going to continue on. I have to say, this has been a fantastic early showing from the touring cars as to what we're going to expect throughout the season. Indeed, it can only get better at the likes of Red Bull Ring and Daytona. although it can only get more physical as well. I think that's a trademark touring car thing, of course, and that hasn't been disappointing either. They've been leaning on each other quite a lot.
They certainly have, and Interlagos being the final race of the season as well. That's a bit of a tight, twisty track in Sector 2 as well. So certainly lots of action still to be had. And of course, don't forget, this is not the only race tonight. We have the GT3 Pro Series as well coming your way for a 60-minute race. After this one has finished, we will go to a highlights package for the Formula 4 Rookie Cup that we had yesterday. And that is obviously the sort of the third tier of this ranked championship. And then after that, we'll then go into qualifying and the race for that Pro Series. Well, we'll bring Lewis McGlade in for the commentating alongside Ewan for that one. And that's certainly going to be a good race as well. 60 minutes of action coming your way for them, which is obviously a bit longer than what we had in season 1. And G3s always bring a nice race and a nice strategic battle. And as you're saying, Ewan, a mandatory pit stop as well to come the way of those drivers. So a little bit more to think about, but of course we still have just shy of 12 minutes left in this race as it still works their way up the timing. And let's see, as McConan there still going down the field, and obviously just a couple of timing issues, and as we say, we'll try and ignore him when we come into sector 3 and he jumps back to the front. Yeah,
we will do. Unfortunate for him though, because as we mentioned earlier on, you need 4 good rounds in this championship to really be a contender, and he after competing in the Cupra Sim Racing Series is, what was a real contender. It was a very good shout for a good result here in this season, but it just hasn't really been his day. And it's not going to be his championship either. Didn't have a great time at things when he did the GT3s either. Finished down at 75th. Don't think he did all the races, but even so, it does just show you that he didn't have a fantastic ranked championship in season 1 either. So I don't know what it is about this championship that doesn't get on with him, but something doesn't, because he's having another real tough one. And let's hope we see him back at least and going for some race wins, even if his championship chances are all but over already.
Yeah, having a bad race out of a 4-race championship is obviously 25%. That's a lot. So even in a 10-race calendar, losing 1 race is difficult. But in a 4-race, yeah, that's going to be very tricky indeed. As we are coming back to this battle, we saw a little bit earlier. File shifter there, 26th place now, dropped back a few positions. Van der Toorn has got up to 23rd, actually, getting past a few drivers there at this point of the race. But of course, good to see how they've been continuing their battles as they go down, or go up, I should say, the standings. And of course, it's certainly one of those tracks where you can have a little bit of a battle. You can sort of come back at someone. It's not just like you overtake and then they go off into the distance. But yeah, it's certainly a tight and twisty track at section still.
Yeah, it is, and it's been very entertaining so far, you've got to say. Speaking of entertaining, this is certainly that at the moment. The battle for the top 5 positions happening. Schmidt trying to take that away at the moment. A lot more rubbing once again, and this is only going to pack up this group even more. You can just see a couple of stragglers for this group just trying to get involved. Battling like this will absolutely let them get involved. Dinet's trying to hold on for all he's worth at the moment. Schmidt trying to get through, any way he can, seemingly, at the moment. Breaks early, going towards the hairpin, though, and that's going to allow Renter very wide there, but even wider and even more out of shape was Dinet through the hairpin there. He effectively handed that one to Schmidt.
Yeah, it's down a bit of a drift in a front-wheel drive car, which is not what you want to be doing to have any sort of speed. And as you saw there, lost a position. Schmidt will be loving that one. Easy place there, easy move, though. Dinet's trying to get around the outside now, but that's not going to work out. So the next corner is going to be just a little bit too tight for that, as Rent has to hold on to this position for now as well behind Dinez. But maybe Dinez will make another mistake, as this battle certainly coming closer, because Orban and Daniel right close behind as well. 5-way battle for this 6th place as we come towards the final 8 minutes of this race already. Schmidt, they're trying to hold on for now, and as we've seen there, Renter trying to make something work as he comes through the Sachs curve.
Absolutely, it's staying very close here indeed, and I think Renter having a very good race here, I've got to say. The best performing Alpha so far in this one, and we haven't really spoken about it, despite the fact he's been inside the top 10. We really haven't spoken about Steve Renter for this entire race, really. He's about where he qualified in 6th place. He is in 7th now, so he has lost out a little bit, but he's been in this big group back fighting the whole time, but we've mentioned him, he's been staying out of the fighting for the most part, and that just does leave him that little bit fresher and that little bit more optimistic going forwards, although he's going to be looking over his shoulder a little bit for the near future, because this has all got very narrow now. Goodness me, he does get up to 6th place, but that was a big mistake from Dines, who's falling apart in the final minutes.
What is Dines doing now? It's 3 wide there on the exit of turn 2. We're now getting Daniel trying to come around the outside as well of the Parabolica. This could be 4 places lost in the space of pretty much just a lap here. But Dines actually manages to hold on to that one in the end, but coming to the braking zone. Is he going to go too wide as he did, diving it down the inside now of Orban? Yes, just go a little bit too late. Pushes the car away of Renter. And now we're side by side on the exit as well. Dines trying to get a little bit pushy as we come through that hairpin sequence, trying to get up this position and somehow ends up gaining 2 places back. A little bit of contact is coming in the way of these drivers. Orban, they're trying to think about diving it down the inside as well, but they need to be careful because it's always one of those things. If you start pushing people are going to come and shove you back. As Orban there side by side on the exit of T10, getting very close indeed between these drivers up towards the incredible stadium section, side by side, and it looks like Orban's just about going to come out on top of that one.
It does indeed. Oh goodness, there's even more contact, a little bit of a wheel into the gravel, and Orban's going to be back behind Petter Daniel all of a sudden. So it all chops and changes again, but Boris Schmidt's going to be able to get away as a result of all this fighting. You could just see it in behind the likes of Popov, able to get back involved as well after going really wide all those laps ago down at turn 9, I think it was, at turn 8, sorry, down at that braking zone. He really did lose a lot of time as a result, but he's getting back involved now as a result of the fighting that's happening between all these drivers. It is remarkable to see from all of them. It's just been fantastic racing, I've got to say, thoroughly enjoyable, although I'm not sure how much these guys have really enjoyed it, because it's been quite difficult, really.
Yeah, it's not fun to drive in these races at all. If you've ever experienced it yourself, you'll know what we mean. It gets very tense, it gets very heated, and you've got to always end up being respectful. Even if there is a bit of pushing and shoving, you still can't just completely total someone's race. But you can obviously come back a little bit aggressively and show them what you've got as well. So again, the slipstream now through the Parabolica, and obviously because it's this long left-hander, it actually makes it a little bit difficult to hold that outside line because it is so long. And as we are seeing, we've got Orban there trying to keep ahead of Popov, but a little bit further up, Dines still trying to keep ahead of Renter. So loads of these positions still continuing. Has come up towards the kink, in towards the Mercedes-Benz Arena section of the track, and it looks like this battle is just going to continue and continue, as already getting up towards the final 5 minutes.
We are indeed. This race has really flown by, despite the fact half an hour for a WTCR race, it has flown by. The fighting between these guys has been absolutely immense, and it's not ending. Steve Renter trying to go down the inside there of Dines, still on the extreme defensive right now. Schmidt able to get away, and he will finish, by the looks of things, in 5th place, whatever happens from here on in. And because of the fight for 6th place is going on so fiercely, Popov goes wide, and he's lost out on a top 10 place all of a sudden. It does seem that he's struggling a little bit on the brakes, got wide on a couple of occasions, and it may well have cost him a top 10 in this race. But we are coming up towards the end of this one now, and who knows which way this fight is going to go. I mean, who knows where this fight is going to end. It is so physical between these guys. They're diving it down the inside of each other at every possible opportunity, and it's very entertaining, but you just wonder how sustainable this is to the end of the race.
Got to see if anyone's going to make a mistake as well. Dines this time around holding it a little bit on the inside, actually. That's going to compromise his exit. Renter gets into the back of him as well, as we've got Daniel and Orban trying to get that slipstream, but they've lost a little bit of time actually on the exit of 3 and 4 there as you come through this Parabolica section. Which one is going to have the best top speed as well? We haven't really said too much between the cars. They seem to be fairly equal so far. But how is Renter going to go? Is he going to go left? Is he going to go right as we come towards the braking zone, in towards the hairpin? Side by side it's going to be. And he's going to try all the way around the outside there. That's a bit too deep though. And he's going to get, unfortunately, pushed out a little bit wide there as Daniel and Orban trying to get through as we come up towards this kink. Side by side between the two. Still got Orban there on the inside of them, and Renter might be losing out to 3rd place here, and he has done as we come towards the braking zone now for the Mercedes-Benz Arena, and these guys just getting nudged and pushed out of the way, but also making a few mistakes.
Yeah, there's a lot of mistakes flying in now. I mean, after nearly half an hour of the racing that we've had at this intensity is expected, really. that people will be going wide here and there, making a few tactical errors as well, maybe, in this group. But he's just all out fighting between these guys at the moment. Just really enthralling to watch. But once again, Denez able to just hold at the front of this group, and I'm very impressed that he's been able to do that, because commented in the last few laps, he really has fallen apart. He's not quite going to his full potential at the moment. He is making mistakes here and there, and it's certainly telling right now. He is really under pressure, and it will remain so to the very end of this race. So let's see if he can hang on. With every lap that goes past, though, it's becoming more and more likely that he'll be able to.
He certainly will, but Daniel was very close there, half thinking about moving to turn 1, but unfortunately there's just not enough braking zone there. But he will get the run up towards turn number 2, trying to make Denez go a little bit offline like we did last lap, and that caused obviously a bit of a slow exit. Denez there having a bit of a slow minimum apex speed as well of turn 2 as you come through 3 and 4 out onto the back straight, and that is very close indeed. Trying to defend on the inside now, Daniel to go all the way around the outside of Denez, trying it's the long way round though, so that is why obviously Denez can hold on to this position in his Hyundai as we come towards the braking zone now of the hairpin side by side. Is there going to be a bit of a later move? We've seen Denez miss the corner a few times. It looks like actually it's going to be Orban who goes a bit wide. Daniel holds up the inside, and side by side, and next to they come.
They do indeed. Who's going to come out on top? It's difficult to tell, but it looks like it will be Orban who stays in front just for the moment in that 8th place. It has allowed the two just up in front there to get away as well, of Denez and Petter Daniel as well. Very late on the brakes from Orban once again. There's so much outbraking of yourself going on into these final laps of this race, and now Popov going to try and maybe get both of them as we go a bit further back to a battle involving the best performing Audi of this race, Frederick Sandstrom, getting his way up towards the front of the field, Philip Sandstrom, excuse me, getting himself up towards the front of the field, trying to get inside the top 15 right now, but not able to. Once again, seeing a bit more of this variety and a few different drivers we haven't focused on so far a little bit further down the field in these final minutes.
Remember, all these positions get points as well, so every point will count for your position, and that goes down to the lower splits as well. If they can then ever get themselves promoted, depending on who shows up to the races as well. As we're coming onto the final lap of the race, we're inside the final minutes. Farkash still leading the way. It has sort of fluctuated and it's come down a little bit. It's just under 2 seconds at this moment in time, but that gap to Ray behind has got bigger and bigger, and Farkash just hasn't really seen anyone since the beginning part of the race. Obviously McConan, unfortunately with that DNF, getting sort of out of his way as such, out of the battle. But actually a little bit further back, we have got a battle on this last lap. Notch is getting a really good run here on Sebastian Ray for this 3rd place, the final place on the podium. Side by side the two come in towards the braking zone. Ray there on the inside, try and hold on to this 3rd place, gets a pretty decent exit actually. Notch is going to have a really difficult run here coming out of the hairpin as it's getting closer and closer between these two. But as we say, every race is going to matter in a 4-round championship, and let's see how this one continues into this final sector. Ray holding on there for that 3rd place at this moment in time, making his apexes, getting that braking zone done nicely, and actually pulling away a little bit. I don't know if Balashnaj is going to have enough to come back as we enter this final part of the track, the final stadium section. Denez still there, holding on to that place. Daniel behind him now with Orban still there with Bozo, and Popov rounding out the top 10, but just a few corners to go now to end this first race of the RaceRoom Ranked Season 2 Championship for 2022. And it looks like it's going to be Farkash holding on around the final corner to take victory here in the WTCR Trophy for the first race of the season. He's going to really enjoy that one, followed by Gianmarco Fiducci there in 2nd place, and Sebastian Ray just going to hold on to that 3rd place. Balashnaj really giving him a run as we come towards this final lap, but not enough to make the move as we get Boris Schmidt there in that 5th place. He had a pretty comfortable race, but behind them there is all sorts of chaos going. Who is going to get towards that line first? It looks like it's going to be Denez, followed by Daniel and Orban, Bozo and Popov rounding out that top 10, and Ewan. That even came down to the final lap, but certainly a very entertaining race, and positions being fought up and down.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very good race indeed, but we didn't see much of Farkas, it had to be said. He won that race earlier on, really, with the battles that he was able to execute. Sometimes we wonder in the early portion of the race, are these fights really worth fighting? Well, absolutely they are, because it means you can take a gap to the line. Farkas was certainly able to do that. He fought hard in the opening moments, but once he'd done that, once he'd fended off everybody else from that pole position, then he was able to push on, and nobody could catch him, not even Fiducci in 2nd place, who's a very very strong driver. We've got Sebastian and Noj up there as well, with Smith rounding out the top 5. Especially those top 4 drivers being very recognisable to any of those of you who follow RaceRoom religiously at home, and very strong drivers, of course. Those 4 are going to be in the championship mix towards the end, and it's great that they've all had good runs and all got good points hauls from this first round. I guess the only real shame in terms of big names who have missed out today, Pavel Makonin finishing well down the order.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult to come back for, as you see there, 28th place. Got the best lap, apparently, but not enough, obviously, in this case. We didn't see exactly what happened, but having some sort of technical issue, we believe, for his car. And the one good thing you can see about the top 10 here, look at that. Viducci +4, Noj +4, and Bozo +7 as well. Loads of big movers in this top 10. Certainly a very entertaining race. But as you were saying, that's not all the action for tonight. We still have the GT3 Pro Series to come. We've got qualifying and we've got the race to come. And Ewan, I think that's going to be just as entertaining as we've seen here.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a very good showing. Obviously, it's going to be very different rating in the GT3s. It's not going to be quite as all-out war as it was in some points in that one. But yeah, I mean, it was very good indeed. And so we got a lot to look forward to in the GT3s. But yeah, I think that TCR race just set us up very well for the season indeed. I guess we've just got to look forward to what we've got coming up at the Red Bull Ring coming up soon as well.
Yeah, we certainly do. Still 3 rounds left every 3 weeks. They're going to be over the course of the next couple of months, and certainly it's going to be good. But of course, we still have 2 races to watch here, Ewan, from the Hockenheimring.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have that GT3 race coming up a little bit later on. We'll be bringing that to you live as well. But last night, we had an F4 race. The Rookie Cup got underway. Unfortunately, we won't be showing that live on broadcast here this season. However, we will be bringing a highlights package of the race to you. So hopefully you all enjoy. This is Lewis McGlade voiceover for the F4 Rookie Cup that happened yesterday.
Highlights then from the first round of the Rookie Cup season sees Enzo Filipao starting from pole position ahead of Bo Dixon. It was a poor start from 4th place, with Sven Mackenberg dropping back into the clutches of those behind. Bo Dixon would nearly get alongside the race leader down to the first corner, but it was all about Filipao at the front. A great start from Grunwald from 5th position on the attack from 3rd, as Marvin Mackenberg was looking to grab 2nd from Bo Dixon. With a bit of a dive down the inside into the 2nd corner, it was actually a poor exit from Marvin Mackenberg that would drop him into the clutches of Grunwald as they head round the parabolica for the first time down towards the hairpin. Before they even got into the braking zone, the position went the way of Grunwald. Schubeck was trying to attack a Tassoy down into the hairpin, and a Tassoy would actually run a bit too deep. Mackenberg with him, and it was a drag race off of the corner, including Pfeiffer as well, who would get himself into the mix round the fast kick, nearly making it 3 wide heading down into the arena section. Schubeck would hold the advantage on the outside and hang on to the position, but it was side by side in the background as Pfeiffer was trying to find his way past, goes in a little bit too deep, opens the door for a Tasso to come through, and as they head through the fast right-hander out of the arena section, there was contact between the two, and Pfeiffer would spin into the clutches of everyone else, dragging Sven Mackenberg round with him. The race leaders, though, separated by small margins as they crossed the line. Filipao just ahead of Bo Dixon. Closing in on the fight was Grunwald. They were all starting to drag their way ahead of the pack behind. Schubeck would drag his way up to the rear end of Marvin Mackenberg, and the two of them would fight over 4th position, with Marvin Mackenberg trying to get around the outside, trying to hang on at the inside of the arena section, would dive it in very deep and was able to hang on to the position just for now. However, coming down to the Sachs curve, he would open up the door, and that was the advantage that Schubeck needed. Behind that, there was this crazy fight for 6th place, with Tassoy holding on for a train with Kiensberger, Cravey and Klinkelmeyer, who we ride on board with behind Villa Cravey, who was trying to find his way through in all of that fight. But it was at the front where the action was being seen a little bit too deep into the corner from a Tassoy, and it would open up the door for Kiensberger to come through, and Villa Cravey as well. By the time they got down into the arena section, though, it was the switch back and the up and under, trying to get all the way around the outside from a Tassoy after that fast kick, and he certainly would do so all the way around and taking over 7th position. The race lead, though, still very close. Bo Dixon happy to sit behind Philippou for now. The two of them, though, starting to pull away just a touch from Grunwald, leaving the driver in third place. Renault was defending from silver when he made this mistake, diving it down the inside of Hockenheimring, way too deep in the braking zone, dropping a couple of positions as well for good measure before rejoining the train. Thankfully, no major drama after all of that. Villecrevi was coming under increasing pressure from Klingelmeer as he was still unable to make a pass on a Tassoy. It wasn't long, though, before he'd closed that gap back up and was really on the attack. Looking down the inside into Mode 1, the outside for the Sachs curve, Tassoy would manage to hang on to that one quite easily, but he was there knocking at the door. Just outside of the top 10, Renault was coming under pressure from Guides, who made a little bit of a mistake whilst diving it down the inside, dropping a position to the charging Pfeiffer after the early issues in the race. And it wasn't long before Pfeiffer himself managed to get through on Renault. Tassoy was in too deep into the hairpin, and Villecrevi absolutely pounced on the opportunity, firing his way up into 7th position. And it wasn't long before Klingelmeer also fancied his chances to pass the ailing Tassoy, who was in a little bit too deep into the penultimate corner, opening the door for Klingelmeer to get there. There was a bit of a brush between the two of them, but the advantage at the final corner, the outside line will always prevail, and that's exactly what happened in this. Unfortunately, a bit of a mistake from Keensberger from 6th position with a bit of a spin, locking the rears, going in a little bit too hot into the second corner, would drop outside of the top 10 after that critical mistake. Klingelmeer was trying to get past Tassoy, but was in way too deep. Tassoy would come through. Demelke also would find his way past, but it wasn't long before the fight back happened. Klingelmeer down the inside of Demelke as they run through the second and third corner, and joining the battle, of course, would be Hockenheimring, trying to find his way past all of this. Got to the outside of Demelke. By the time they got down to the arena section, he'd back out of it, and Demelke would be hanging on to 9th position. The race leader, though, bit of a mistake. This is the final lap of the race. Philippou in too deep coming into the second corner, and that was the opportunity open for Bo Dixon to get to the inside of the hairpin. As they went around the arena section, Bo Dixon would have to send it all the way around the outside of Enzo Philippou, and it would just work. However, there were still plenty of opportunities left for Philippou to try something. The outside of the Sachs curve, that one ticked off. No advantage there. Bo Dixon, final corner, and out of it, he would win the first race of the season at the Hockenheimring. Bo Dixon on top, just from Enzo Philippou.
Welcome back to the Hockenheimring, where we still have one race remaining. We've had the WTCR, out where myself, Ewan, was joined by Cameron Rodger. We've had the F4 Rookie Cup highlights by Lewis McGlade, and he's back again for the GT3 race. Lewis, welcome back. 60 minutes of racing coming up for us.
Yeah, this should be a lot of fun. Again, something a bit different. We like this format. Obviously, it was tried out last season, expanded a little bit following some of the complaints that you had last season. Which rightfully, yeah, we had some shorter races last season where we kind of couldn't get on top of it. Sometimes it was kind of like, yeah, they're not long enough to see like the meat of the action. Whereas this season, with slightly expanded races, getting out to an hour, this is going to be a lot of fun.
It certainly is. I think it does make a bit more sense, and I also don't think the changes were implemented because of me. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I think it worked. I mean, the half an hour WTCR race I think was pretty much perfect. There wasn't too much in the middle where things got really single file, where everybody was kind of taking things slowly, taking things calmly. We may see a bit more of that portion of the race in the GT3s here, just because it is a longer race at 1 hour. However, there is a mandatory pit stop, so that will kind of keep us kind of looking every which way to see where that's going to come from, and kind of figure out what that is going to do to the race. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, but difficult to know how it's going to play out in the first round of a championship.
Well, let's talk about the two races that we had. Of course, we've just had the highlights of the Rookie Cup, the F4s there, which was a super entertaining race from start to finish. That final move on the last lap there from Bo Dixon to get past Enzo Philippou. We're seeing quite a lot of this hard elbows out racing. We saw plenty of that in the WTCRs, of course, for the Am Trophy. Ben Farkash taking out a victory from Fiducci and Ray. What we're kind of expecting in these, though, GT3's a little bit bigger. They eat up straights and stuff. I'm still kind of expecting a few moves.
Yeah, I think there will be a few, but I think it is going to be certainly less than the touring cars. One thing that's safe to say is that there won't be as much leaning on each other as we saw in the touring cars. There was a lot going on, but then again, that's kind of standard procedure, really. So we'll see a little bit less of that. Maybe a little bit less overtaking as well, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be an interesting race because of those pit stops that we've mentioned, obviously. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see how it pans out. I do think there are better suited circuits to these cars though on this calendar. But I mean, I think all three of the other circuits are actually better suited to these GT3s really than the Hockenheimring. But there we are. It's still going to be worth watching, and we'll see really who comes out on top.
They are four very different circuits, aren't they? Of course, we're starting the season here at the Hockenheimring. For anyone who didn't join us earlier on the broadcast, we'll be heading to the Red Bull Ring, to Daytona International Speedway, and to Interlagos over the season. Four incredibly different circuits, and that's kind of the joy of what we have with this style of racing, where some tracks suit some cars more than others, some tracks suit some drivers more than others, and that's the joy of a season like this when it's super short.
Absolutely, you do have to try and pick your way through as much as possible. I mean, I think if I was picking a car for this series, obviously you've got to be comfortable with the car first. But barring that, you've got to pick a car, in my opinion, that has a little bit of straight line speed, or at least you can't pick a car that has no straight line speed at all, because there are a couple of circuits at the Red Bull Ring and Daytona where you will desperately need some straight line speed. Even here at Hockenheim, you can really use it to your advantage down towards the hairpin. Even at Interlagos, the run from Junkau at the end of the lap to the first corner at the Centre S as well, that's a long way through as well. So you can't have a slow car in a straight line in a schedule like this, I don't think. But we'll wait and see who's picked, because somebody's bound to have picked a car that's fantastic in the corners, but not that good on the straights, and we'll see who has done that and how they're going to cope with it.
Yes, indeed. You can see we are in qualifying for this. A 10-minute qualifying session, very short, very sweet, and it's going to be absolutely relentless out there. 31 cars out on this circuit. It may not be a long track, but trust me, when it's as busy as this out there, it is a nightmare. Top in practice was Axel Vermeulen that we're presently looking at. And when we speak of big names in sim racing, big names on RaceRoom, we've got plenty of those on this. Of course, we had the likes of Gianmarco Fiducci, as well as Farkas, of course, Pavel McGlade in the previous ones in this. We've got Axel Vermeulen, we've got Max Pfeiffer, we've got Alex Mosen, we've got some big names, of course. Max Pfeiffer, well, he'll want to defend his crown, won't he?
He certainly will. He just about held on to it, actually, at the back end of last season. To be fair, it was very, very close, despite he had a good first three rounds and then slightly shaky last one, but went home with the title anyway. He will be looking to replicate that, and he is indeed the strongest rated, or the highest rated driver. From Ireland, we were just looking there, the third highest rated, and both of those would have topped the ratings, if you like, for the previous race we just had. They were better than, in terms of rating, better than every single WTCR driver we just had in the previous race. So it's a very strong field. Not that it was weak for the previous race, but a very strong field. Mosen here as well, as you mentioned, is going to be one to watch as well. It's like we had in the previous race. We've got a number of drivers who are going to be right up there fighting for the title, and let's just hope that they all do stay up there and have at least a decent opening to this season. Unlike what we saw with McConan there, we don't want to see a big contender out pretty much already.
Alex Mosen, of course, finished in 8th position in the standings, the GT3 Pro Series last season, a bit earlier on in the year. The guy that won the championship is sat right behind him here in this shot as we head round. Steph Kramer's also the next car down, and then we get to Axel Vermeulen, who'll be feeling very hungry in this championship, because you said before that, of course, Max Pfeiffer just about finished as the champion. Well, the person that he just beat by 7 points was Axel Vermeulen. Mosen crosses the line then to set the first time, and it's instantly beaten by Max Pfeiffer's 138.573. Axel Vermeulen goes up into second position with a 38.832. The top three being Pfeiffer, Vermeulen and Mosen, pulling a little bit clear. The only drivers inside the 38s on the first laps complete from the top lot.
Yes, good to see from them to be able to write on that pace straight away for those guys. The only problem that Pfeiffer's got now is trying not to get in everyone else's way as he's making his way back out onto the circuit once again. But just a quarter of a second behind Vermeulen, not too much in terms of these GT3s. We're not expecting to see quite as close of a session as we saw with the WTCR cars a moment ago. It is going to be a little bit more spaced out than that, so do expect that. But a quarter of a second for Vermeulen he needs to find right now. and he's certainly got it within him. This session is long enough. Well, it's not the longest, of course, in the world. It is long enough for him to find a bit of time and get a little bit closer to 5, because, as you mentioned, these two have gone to head-to-head in the past in this championship.
A couple of bigger names that are a bit further down the order than what would be expected. Rokas to be only 17th position at the moment with a 40.2. Can expect a bit more from him. Same with Luciano Wittfurt, yet to set a time down in 27th. There is the Ballas Esports driver, whilst his teammates qualified at the moment in 3rd position. That spin, that slide will certainly not help Luciano Wittfurt's efforts. Half the session already gone. We have just 5 minutes and 10 seconds left. And remember, when that timer hits 0, the session is done. There is not much time for them to get on top of this.
No, there certainly isn't. Vermeulen has got this outlap and probably 2 flying laps to come here for the Belgian, so he's going to make use of them. Anyone making their way out of the pit lane right now has the same, so that goes for Parvan as well. You can just see up on the road right now. But yeah, not too long at all. These short, snappy qualifying sessions are a very good idea. It just gets everyone out there immediately, gets everyone on the pace immediately as well. And it's a case of whether you can actually produce a good lap time straight away, because in some of these qualifying sessions, they go on for half an hour or so. You can pretty much do your all-time best in that amount of session. When it's only 10 minutes and there's not exactly a short circuit, it does put the pressure on the drivers that little bit more.
Well, we can see Parvan here in the black and gold McLaren 720S, currently qualified in 4th position, still outside of the 38s, the only 3 being inside the other 3 that we were saying about earlier, being Pfeiffer, Vermeulen and Mosen. Getting a little bit of slipstream, a little bit of assistance here, of course, as being on the outlap from Mosen. I think it'll be quite important for him to just kind of keep up with that Porsche directly ahead. That's not how you do it. But to try and keep up with Mosen, because knowing how quick Mosen is, and as much as it's not the heaviest slipstream circuit in the world, it does make a difference. I think it might help around it.
It may help a little bit. I think it does depend on who's in front of you, though. Parvan having Mosen in front is a good thing. If you had someone from further down the field that he might be a second quicker than, then maybe it's not a great thing. I mean, even if it's going to help you by 1/10 of a second, half a tenth, then you're going to take that kind of advantage in a qualifying session. Doesn't matter how big the advantage is. So even if it is only slight, he will be taking this one gladly. Will Parvan, and we'll see what he can produce on the next lap. As we go back to Grote in 7th place right now, trying to just climb up the order. It only needs about a 10th of a second to get inside the top 5.
Big slide from the Ferrari ahead that I believe belongs to Machazzo. He's just had a big slide. Grote, they're out way too wide before they get into Moa 1, just departing the arena section. So I'm not thinking this is a solid lap. That is also not a solid lap from the car behind. So that one is off the pit lane. Grote also returns to pit lane. They do have enough time. Actually, no, they don't. They will not have enough time to set another lap. I think the last driver that might set a lap might actually be Florian Arendt, who came out of the pit lane not too long ago, and is down in 27th. I think that might be the last lap time on fresh tyres. Rokas to be moves up inside the top 10. There is Florian Arendt. We won't call him Fabian, don't worry. I know he's been pretty irritated by how many other names on broadcasts, mostly by me. So I do apologise. Of course, close friends with Timo Lina, who's out in the previous race. I'm sure we'll be on the wall trying to help Florian through this race. But at the moment, like I say, down in 27th position, a 40.7, and bails from that. And that is session done for yet another one of our drivers.
Yeah, looks like it. There's plenty of drivers down in the pit lane at the moment. We didn't see this in the last session at all, but Max Pfeiffer is on top once again. Here in the Bentley, he's decided to use on this occasion, but it's the same result in a different car by the looks of things. Once again going purple in the first 2 sectors. Not many people even improving behind him, so he doesn't even really need to do this. However, he might just be putting it even further out of reach.
Yeah, getting a bit of slipstream from Roland Sen as he comes across the line. Pfeiffer looking to improve, does improve, gets a 38.471, pulls himself nearly 4/10 clear of this man here, Axel Vermeulen. 1 minute and 18 seconds left the session. There is enough time for Vermeulen to come across the line and try and snatch one on his championship rival of season 1 in 2022. He's got a lot of work to do though. First sector looks okay. Gained or lost about 700ths of a second, but still gaining on himself. That will be important. Who was that just improved? I think it might have been Sonal that's just got up inside the top 5.
I think it was actually 5th position for him. Great ending to that, and Victor Straitman's just in front, behind him now. By the way, catapulted himself into the top 5 as well. By the way, some very good late lap times from some of these drivers, much like we saw from Verducci in the WTCRs earlier on. But Vermeulen is giving everything he can here. He's pretty much where he was before, really, with the first couple of sectors. Is he going to improve with the final sector? He may well have some time within him, but will he be able to take pole away?
Going to be super tight towards the line. Axel Vermeulen punches it towards it. Is it going to be pole position? The answer's no. He misses out by 13 thousandths of a second at the end of that session. Pfeiffer grabs the first pole position of the season, with Vermeulen and Mosin just directly behind. Parvin still outside of the 38s, but it was enough to grab 4th position with Sonal, with a late improvement up into 5th. Like you said, Streetemans, Rosen, Luciano Wittfurt, Botti and Grote rounding out the top 10. The rest of your order coming through there. What a thrilling end to the qualifying session, and for Axel Vermeulen to miss out by such a narrow margin, just 13 thousandths of a second, that will be very painful. The two of those look the class of the field.
They do, really. They've got a big margin over those in 3rd place on backwards, so it does seem that it's going to be between those two. But once again, great signs from this qualifying session going in towards this race, because they were so close there. They're bound to be throughout this one as well, so we're very much looking forward to it. Will Vermeulen be able to stay as close to Pfeiffer, though? Because I do feel like Vermeulen had to try that little bit more, had to push that car a little bit closer to its limit than Pfeiffer did in that session there. Was that the case? Were they both at their absolute limit in that qualifying session? Will they remain so close for the hour upcoming here? If they do, then we are in for a treat, but let's see.
I mean, let's be honest, last season Pfeiffer and Vermeulen were class of the field. We're kind of expecting the same thing in this, right? And also, what we kind of expecting over the first lap?
Well, I think we're going to see something similar to what we saw in the WTCRs, where things are nice and clean through the first few corners, but not into the hairpin.
Well, with an hour onto the clock then, let's get this show on the road. The pro race here in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship Season 2 of 2022 about to get underway. Pfeiffer and Vermeulen on the front row of the grid as we're about to get underway. Rosen gets a false start. It's a drive-through penalty. That's a driver from 7th position. That yellow Mercedes directly behind. It's a good start, though, from Pfeiffer, who's going to be leading through the first corner. A little bit too wide, though. A slow exit potentially from Mosen, as Parvin's going to try and get alongside on the drag race up towards the second corner.
Oh.
There's a big crash in the background whilst the defensive line comes in from Axel Vermeulen, because Parvin's on a proper charge, sticking it around the outside for 2nd position. He's got the inside coming through T3 onto the Parabolica, and Vermeulen's booking a one-way ticket backwards on the grid.
He has, but might well come back into the hairpin unless Mosin will be able to do anything here. But we've already seen the incidents in the background. What are we going to see into the hairpin on the first occasion? Pfeiffer not feeling the need to defend. He didn't need to in the end. It's mostly single file up front. Oh, although there's contact between Vermeulen, who tried to get down the inside of Parman, and he ended up paying for that with a position.
See, Grote has dropped back quite a few here, down to 14th position. It's a bit chaos. We've got Paget that's just trying to work his way past Vigneron at the moment. It's been a bit of a calamitous affair further down the order. It's calamitous coming into the arena section. Luciano Wittfurt on the inside of Rosen, who's got that drive-through penalty. Oh my goodness, this is looking like chaos. You've got Rokers to be in there. You've got Botti in there as well. Straetemans, who's lost a couple of positions on the start. This is chaos. Luciano Wittfurt, though, straight on the inside. There's been contact, and he's spun round coming into Mobile 1.
And this is not the depths of the midfield, by the way. This is nearly over a battle for 5th place going up towards the front. It's remarkable to see so much contact and so many cars so close together. And unfortunately, one of them was going to end up going around. And unfortunately, it has happened for Wittfurt, who goes down outside the top 20 as well. There's pit stops being made as well early on in this one for that jump start, I believe. Early on in this race, it is indeed from Rosen there. So disappointing for him. However, oh dear, more contact as well. Ferrari in the wall.
That'll be Martin, I think, who we were kind of watching making some progress. Maybe risked it out a little bit too much. Drops now to 26th position. Maybe even further than that. Rosen drops all the way to probably just outside the top 30 once he's come out of the pit lane. This is again a bit of chaos. There's been a spinner in the background. I think that was Florian Arend, who's been spun round in the middle of all of this pack. It's disaster for some. It's been chaos for others. And some have risen through the ranks lovely. Got to say, best start of the race got to be from Parvin, who's just been dived down the inside as Mosin sends it up there. He needed to get on with it. He's 1.5 seconds down on his championship rival, potentially. Who knows? It's only a 4-round season. I'm getting way ahead of myself, but Mosin needs to get on with this. Fife was checking out right now. You can see Vermeulen also trying to find his way through on Parvin.
I think the gap already extending to nearly 2 seconds here. Pfeiffer has seen a chance to win this one already, and he's going to try and take it if he can. Side by side a little bit further behind is only helping him as well. Oh, that's a big side from Hoyt there, who has to really get that car back on track and does so remarkably, but in the end loses out on a top 10 position. To a whole host of drivers, including Streckmans and Damdeer as well, who go through in the Audi and the Ferrari, just going through bottom of shot there. But what a remarkable start to this race. It was a lot more chaotic than the touring cars, really, which I wouldn't really believe myself saying, really. But that seems to have been what happened. Looks for Max Pfeiffer, though. He has had a dream start, really, and he's now got nearly 2 seconds of a lead, over 2 seconds of a lead.
Yeah, here we go. We've got Parvin right ahead of Rokas to be then. That's been a bit of a disaster end of the lap for Parvin, who's dropped back from basically running the first part of this race in second position, drops back all the way to fifth under a lot of pressure from Rokas to be and Alessandro Botti, who's getting down the inside. Callaway on Callaway action coming into T2, and it'll be the position held at the moment by Rokas to be, who's made a good start to this race at the moment, getting up into sixth position. Parvin, though, pulls just a little bit clear. The hard way fight, the Waldo drag lights and Strettermans and Zabdir into the mix as well, but looking a bit dicey between the two Callaways.
It certainly is. A bit of a squeeze going on further up as well. Oh, that's too late. Oh dear, too late on the brakes from Parvin loses out in the end. The three of them, three wide on the exit of the corner. I've no idea how they managed that after such big bit of contact down towards the hairpin, but either way, they have done. To be and Bosley once again running each other out of road almost. On this occasion, it will be Rokas to be. Yeah. Not for long though, he gets spun around.
Yeah, that was looking like a bit of chaos, and Parvin just chopped straight across Alessandro Botti. That was a little bit naughty, got into the rear end of Botti, which arguably pushed Rokas to be around, and then all of that was just chaos, chopped straight over the nose of Alessandro Botti. Bit of a shame there, because it's been such a good start to the race from Daniel Parvin. Now 6/10 clear of Zabdir, who'll be charging in that Ferrari, and like with some of fourth Strettermans, we've got Dreyer on screen at the moment, just outside of the top 20. That BMW is going a lap down. That'll be Cairo at the moment. He's in 31st, just the Argentinian driver.
Not a good start to the race to already be 1 lap down, I'm afraid there, but sometimes you can't do much about it. It's been such a chaotic start to this race. I was not expecting this at all. I'm trying to decide whether this is kind of a product of this race, the fact that it's the first round of the season, the track as well, and just these drivers being all so close together, or whether it is down to all these down to driver error, and they really do need to calm down a bit. It's unclear to me anyway as to who should really be at fault, but it's very, very messy.
It is, dicey, messy. Yeah, I think it's just drivers kind of betting themselves in the first round of the season, wanting to get a bit elbows out, wanting to get on with it and enjoy it a bit. Maybe getting a little bit too ambitious. I mean, for that one, for the sort of mistakes that we saw there, if you put the blame more on Parvin, you could maybe say that he was losing out a few positions after running in second and kind of losing out. We didn't see why he dropped off of that second place battle and why he dropped so far back into the clutches of those behind. So kind of a few questions to be levelled there. Maybe it was a little bit of frustration, bit of the old red mist, as we've said before. At the moment, though, we'll focus on the race at hand, because Pfeiffer's leading by over 2.5 seconds. The chasing pack at the moment being Mosin, Vermeulen and Cernal, who's, if I'm Cernal right now, I'm just sat there. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to fight the two ahead of me. I'm going to let Vermeulen and Mosin try and chase down Pfeiffer, and if not, let them battle between themselves.
Well, it doesn't look like he's got much choice right now, because you can see the gaps opening up in front of the Ferrari, or behind the Ferrari, I should say, just in front of Cernal here. He doesn't quite have that top pace of the front three just up in front of him. Arguably, he doesn't have the same pace of Parvin either, who may well close in on him throughout the course of this race. But you can see that just more and more car left opening up. You can see with that delta on the bottom of your screen as well, the gap extends to 7/10 of a second, and it will continue to do so throughout the race. Unfortunately for Cernal, I don't think he's going to be able to stay in touch with these guys very easily, but if he can, then fair play to him. A little bit of fighting over second place here may help him.
Yeah, well, we'll see how the fight goes on. This is Vermeulen closing in. Is he going to look? He is going to look. He's going to commit to the inside as well to try and get past Mosen at the moment. Send it down the inside. Mosen being a bit wise with it as well, trying to back out of it. Could be a drag race off the corner. It's been the up and under from Mosen. It was so beautifully read from Mosen. Vermeulen was in way too deep, overcooked the brakes just a touch and opened the door for Mosen to hang on. That lost them half a second. If they keep fighting like this, they're going to be losing time hand over fist, and I'm okay with it. Battle away, lads. Let's do it. Let's see what we've got. Obviously, we'll be closing in on the mandatory pit stop in the middle portion of this race. No one being able to tick that one off at this point. You'll see on the times, we will point it out when it's on. You'll see on the timing tower that it will pop up onto there, and it will be quite obvious. Here's Rodger, though, in that green Porsche, losing out of position at the moment, but the Norwegian driver second down the inside of Mobil 1 and hangs on to 8th.
Outside and all over those curves, which are really vicious around here. Down the inside for the older age McLaren. Oh dear me, always get nervous when they go side by side through there for that exact reason. Contact can be made very, very easily, and there was a bit there, but they managed to get away with it. But able to just hang on to the place. Grotte not able to make his way through, and once again the groups are getting split apart here because Parvan is putting on some real pace in 5th place at the moment, and some of these guys further behind can't deal with it, and they're getting drawn into fights of their own. It's allowing some of those up front to get away quite quickly.
Yeah, you can see, as you said before, in the older McLaren. Got to say, I'm a bit of a fan of the 650S. Not getting in and out of one. We've seen a video of me doing so. Yeah. It wasn't pleasant, but still. You can ask Cameron Rodger for that video. I'm sure it exists somewhere of me climbing in and out of a 650S GT3 spec. It was not a pleasant experience. You can see Vermeulen, though, straight down the inside of Mosen, out a little bit wide. This time the advantage should potentially swing the way of the Ferrari. See what Mosen does coming up towards the fast kick. And before they even get into the Mercedes intersection, I think it would be wise, even if Mosen had the drive there to try and stay alongside, just to lift out slightly, let Vermeulen get on with it.
I think he has done, sort of, although Vermeulen still needed, or felt the need at least, to go defensive going down towards turn 8. It looks like they've sorted themselves out there. They have scouted themselves single file, and with this battle, the gap just to the lead just keeps on increasing. 4 seconds now, and this is not going to help. A dive into the Mobil 1 curve. You don't see that often, and Vermeulen very nearly lost the car out on the outside curve there.
Swift hands. I bet he almost wished that he was driving a front-wheel drive touring car at that point. Which point, you're going sideways, slam the throttle down. That should save a few things in this. You've got to deal with some proper car control, and Vermeulen just able to hang on to that one. A big, bold dive, though, from Mosen to send it down the inside into Mobil 1. That was absolutely sensational. Now grabs second position, and he might well use, if he's got the pace advantage over Sonal, he might use that car between them as the advantage that he needs to try and pull that gap out slightly, to try and bring himself a little bit clear and secure that second position. You can see they're well clear of Parvan, who's in 5th position at the moment, defending a little bit from Zabdir in the blue Ferrari. But yeah, it's a bit touch and go with this battle.
Yeah, they are clear of Parvan right now. I just wonder whether that's going to remain the same over nearly 50 minutes of this race. I do feel like the McLaren has a bit of pace and might be able to get involved pretty soon. These guys won't if they continue on like this, because Grotte is getting involved in every battle you can imagine. It looks like Blankenberg trying to make his way through, as well as Brown and Wittmer as well, who's made a remarkable recovery really from his spin earlier on in the race, from outside the top 20 back inside the top 15 already, and knocking on the door of a top 10 all within 10 minutes so far. Slightly bodies Brown on the outside line there for the moment, and 2 sets of side by side, and GT3 is heading towards turn 8.
Oh no, see you, mate. That's the Mercedes gone round to Luciano Wittmer. See ya, have fun. We'll talk to you in a bit. That has been a big slide. I think he might have managed to potentially save it. We'll see if the Mercedes comes round in the background.
Wow.
I think that is Luciano Wittmer only dropping to 13th after that monster moment. I have no idea how that happened. I don't get it.
Well, neither have I really, but somehow he's managed to do a 360 completely and not even lose that much time. He's not even lost a place. He's still 13th, and he's only lost about a second. This lap time is probably better than what I could do driving normally, and he's just done a 360. That was unbelievable from Wittmer. But it's fair to say he has not had the easiest of starts to this season. We're not even a quarter of an hour through this one at the moment, but he's already been around twice in this race, and that rear end is starting to show some signs of some fairly warm rear tyres.
Yeah, these GT3s are quite hard to drive, which I would perfectly honest, I've said time and time again before, Mr. Ewan O'Leary, I want to see you drive one of these things, even though you refuse to get into simulators. That's fine. Each their own. Vermeulen, though, on the attack, down for third position, straight down the inside of Sunel, so he grabs over that third. But once again, for the second time we've seen him doing a move to the inside, he's gone in too deep, he's opened the door, and that Audi R8, the V10 power, straight off the hairpin, pulls him clear and back into third position. It's a German 1-2-3. Vermeulen, though, straight back down the inside, properly threw that one in. And the virtual drivers by TX3 Man pulls himself back up onto the podium.
Yeah, nice job from Vermeulen there to get through, and he was very decisive. We saw how late he was on the brakes. That was just that was not indecisiveness, put it that way. It was very, very good indeed. Was able to, and he needs to be careful on that outside curve once again, but he's done a good job to get in front of Sunel, and not doing a good job right now is Mohsin. Look how wide he went through the Saxe curve there. There is a banking, of course. You do want to go to the high side, but not quite that much. He nearly ended up in the gravel.
If memory serves, Pfeiffer and Vermeulen have been on the podium all 4 times before. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure that is the case, because they've both won 2 races apiece, looking to continue their podium streak at the moment with first and third. But if you look back to last season's result, it was that third place finish that cost Vermeulen the title. He does not want to start the season in that place.
No, he certainly doesn't. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Max Pfeiffer didn't finish outside the top 2 all season long. Vermeulen, to be fair to him, didn't finish outside the top 3, but as you said, that third place really did damage him. So those 7 points, effectively, you can boil that down to 1 position. Forget about the points for a second. That's 1 position between those 2 at the end of the season. Really quite remarkable stuff between those 2 drivers. Well, I say that actually. I think he finished 4th, and that might be what cost him. But either way, it was very close, and he's trying not to let history repeat itself, because he's fighting hard for the 2nd place.
I think Moses had a very bad lap because he was comfortably clear of Vermeulen, and now Vermeulen is right there, and he'll send it straight down the inside. This is how he got past, and now he's going to be in a little bit too deep. Mohsin might be able to do the up and under, get around the outside. It's a bit risky. We've seen a couple of incidents here today already, and a couple of times even in the Rookie Cup as well. It is a corner coming out of the arena section, and we do see the odd issue with side-by-side contact, but Vermeulen grabs over 2nd position. I can almost guarantee that that battle is most certainly not done yet, and Vermeulen still has to keep his eyes on his mirror.
Well, the only way that I can see it ending in the near future is Sunel trying to go through on Mohsin, allowing Vermeulen to get clear. But once again, I can't really see that happening. Sunel has played a very conservative race so far, and that's all he can do from his situation. I think he's playing the perfect race, even if it's not very exciting, maybe not very aggressive, not very attacking, if you like. It's exactly what he needs to do, and so I can't see that really breaking this group apart. He has got a little bit wide through turn 1 there, but at the moment he's getting a good result in as the pit stop window now opens, and immediately Zabdir taking the opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to wonder why Zabdir is dropping down the order, but yeah, like you say, bang, straight in the pit lane. Same with Sen, the 2 of them coming down. Chatso as well, joining them in the pit lane. So a few drivers, 3 drivers in at the first port of call. The pit window will be open for the middle half of this race, from 45 minutes to go to 15 minutes to go. It will be open for that entire period. You'll see when the pit stops are complete. As you can see, if you look at Zabdir, there is a green check next to his name, meaning that he has completed his pit lane sequence. Rokas to be, after his early issues in this race, also comes down to pit lane to make it 4 drivers to already tick off the pit wall at the start of the race. Lucianovic for in way too deep there, trying to get past Brown, and that'll be the position switched back the way of the Germans. Lucianovic gave it a go.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about this circuit, but it's making everybody outbrake themselves for some reason. We've seen it again with Wittbert there. I mean, you can't blame him too much. He is trying to make a move down the inside there at the hairpin, but after all, we have seen it a lot. We saw it earlier in the first race, and once again in the GT3s as well. A little bit surprised to see, by the way, Ewan Vigneron down here in 13th position right now, and this is an inflated position, let's not forget. I think Zabdir was in front of him before the pit stop, so this is probably 14th really for Vigneron, and it's a little bit of a surprise to be this one. I thought he would be a little bit further up the order, given his talent and given what he can do and what we've seen him do in the past. To see him down outside the top 10 is a bit of a surprise, especially when you look at some of the names you've got inside the top 10. With no disrespect to them, there are a few lesser known names than him inside there right now.
Yeah, Ewan is a quality driver, and like I say, maybe not having the greatest start to this season. You are also right about Zabdir. Zabdir was battling with Parvin for 5th position. He was directly behind Parvin and was unable to get through these times. I think he's gone for a bit of an early pit stop to try and jump. I will say Parvin, I think, is closing back in on Cernau and maybe even Mosen as well for 2nd, 3rd and 4th, obviously to include the main and all that. Here's Lucianovic, but we'll see if for a second attempt he can try and get past Brownlow into the hairpin, or if, like you say, Ewan, if they're going to overcook it a bit.
Well, let's see. He's alongside on the way in this time, maybe a little bit more careful on the brakes into the hairpin. That time shoves out wide a little bit for Brownlow. In the end, the German has to give way, and so Viva is up into 11th place, but this is exactly the kind of driver, Luciano Viva, that I would expect to see in the pit lane here at this stage. Why is he overtaking these cars on the road where there's an opportunity to go back into clean air, like what Zabdir has done? Or I say clean air, it might not be clean air for that long, but either way, he might get just a few laps of clean air, whereas if he's here, he's going to be stuck in the train for this entire pit stop window. Even if they all stay out to the very final lap, I don't really understand why he doesn't take a bit of a risk and go in early.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. If you're stuck behind someone, or if you're kind of trying to pull away, do something different. Try something else. Try something like an early pit stop, just to try and take advantage. Although you do have to risk there is a lot of risk with an early pit stop that you'll come into the pit lane and then you'll be stuck in traffic. I think Florian Arendt had a bit of an issue because he's come into the pit lane and either he hasn't come out or he's come straight back into the pit lane. I think there's been a couple of issues for the Austrian, who drops down to 30th and what is now last because David Kulas has retired from the race. We'll say it's a retirement. I'm not sure what's happened, but it's classified as a disqualification, whilst Vigneron also comes into the pit lane, maybe trying to get advantage of it as well.
Yeah, quite possibly another driver, actually, Vigneron, I expect to see into the pit lane at this stage, and he absolutely is. As we look at the battle for 2nd place, not really a battle anymore because Vermaelen has just put a bit of pace on and he's gotten rid of Mosin and Cernau especially as well. It's going to allow Parvin back into this one, and I do believe that McLaren, the newer generation of McLaren, can be on the podium by the end of this race. There are still 40 minutes to go, let's not forget, plenty of time. The gap's only 4 seconds to Cernau, less than that, so there's plenty of time on the Romanian side to be able to just reel those guys in and then make those moves, but for now he's still got a bit of work to do.
Wow, here is your race leader at the head of the field by 7 seconds, looking for his 3rd victory in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship of 2022. Of course, in Season 1, he took 2 victories, and he's looking for a 3rd in this race. I think there's one driver that I can almost guarantee will not pit for a while. It's Pfeiffer right now. No need to pit. If he pits, he comes out in traffic. He comes out in the danger zone. Stay out. I think Rosen's had a couple more issues by the way. We can see him here with a lot of damage on the front end, leaving the arena section. That is not looking pretty.
No, oh dear me, it's certainly not. And this is what happens when you get pumped down in the pack. We saw Rosen jump the start and have to make a drive-through at the very end of lap 1. Then you get put in the traffic, then things can go wrong, and they have done, I'm afraid. It's a real shame to see, not a nice looking Mercedes anymore in that in that position. A long way down, and even getting overtaken or nearly getting overtaken by some drivers who've already been in for their mandatory pit stop. It's not looking good for Rosen, I'm afraid. And you can just see with the lap times, 45 on that occasion. It's not going well, and I'm afraid he's going to lose out on a lot of points as a result.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, especially to start a season in that way. It's always a frustrating experience to start the season on the back foot. But that's how racing goes. You've got to take the highs with the lows. Of course, there is free car choice, so the cars that they're in at the moment aren't necessarily the ones that we'll see them in rounds to come, which I think is kind of a bit intriguing to see where things go, especially considering how diverse the field is in this race. But we'll see that continue to be quite diverse in the rounds to come. You can see a couple of switches down the order. I think Vustrich has just lost out a fair bit with a bit of a spin. Now back into the clutches of Zabdir, of course the first driver to have made a pit stop already.
Yeah, he is just for now. But yeah, I'm a bit surprised. I've got to say about the variety of cars, considering you can change in between rounds, we believe, in both the GT3 and the WTCR, you can change in between rounds. And we've got such variety up towards the front. We've got 5 different manufacturers inside the top 5. We've got another one well, 5 inside the top 10 as well, I guess. But you get the point. There's a lot of different cars on the grid. A lot of cars doing well. I think it's, testament to the balance of performance and just how well it's going at RaceRoom at the moment. These cars very evenly matched as Luciano Wittmann tries to get back inside the top 10 here.
Well, you can see as well that dive down the inside from Luciano Wittmann. You are right, though. There is 6 different cars in the top 10 because there is a 650S as well as a 720 when it comes to the McLarens, because Geet obviously being in that 650. So, like I say, balancing over those kind of cars. Great to see Luciano Wittmann all over the rear end of Grutter, who is a confusing one for me in this race. As you can see, he's going to be dived down on by the inside of Luciano Wittmann, sends it in there. Grutter out wide, drops out of the top 10 now down to 11th position. Grutter qualified inside the top 10, drops back to 14th, gets back up to 8th, drops back down to 11th. I'm confused because normally when you have, if you've got good qualifying form and you drop back a bit and then you gain all that back up, then normally you're good to keep going forward because you've dropped back a few positions. Now you're working your way through those that have gained stuff on you, and yet we've not seen that from Grutter. We've seen since getting back up into 8th position struggles.
Yeah, it is bizarre, and sometimes this does happen. I mean, it's we're acting like these drivers are complete robots, and the pace that they go at is going to remain a constant for Grutter. I think he's certainly confirming that he is a human being, because very much fluctuating in terms of the lap times that he's doing in the positions and the way he's losing them and then gaining them again. It's a bit bizarre, but it's only natural, really, as the real intrigue in terms of pit stops does begin now, with Parman and Strootman both making pit stops from inside the top 10.
I think sim racing's the only real e-sport or motorsport in general where being classified as human is almost quite offensive because everyone wants to be an alien. But alas, that is not the case. Grutter, like you say, having a couple of issues over the last few laps. We'll head back up to the ladder for 6th position, which now sees Kramer's, Blankenberg, as well Luciano Wittmann, who's instantly joined in on that fight in the Mercedes AMG directly behind, whilst we await to see where the likes of Strootman will come out in all of this, as well as Parvan, who comes out comfortably clear, I believe, of Zabdir, who was the driver he was fighting with. That's a little bit too deep. It's going to open the door, though, as Blankenberg looks to the inside of Kramer's, opens the door potentially for Luciano Wittmann to come through.
It does not a great exit for Blankenberg off of the hairpin there, but is this turn 8 an ideal place to make a move for Wittmann? Well, not if Blankenberg is going to make one himself. Down the inside, goes over that curb. He's not going to get anywhere there on the outside of turn 10 either. It's the Mobil 1 curb. Wittmann is going to try and take the inside line away from him. He realised that was happening. He tried to cover it off. In the end, he's been able to manage it, and in doing so, he's got down the inside of Kremers. I've no idea how he's managed to get the speed there to manage that, but he has, although it's landed in the outside line for turn 12.
Yeah, this is a big moment coming around Sachs. Blankenberg trying to stick it around the outside, a bit of contact as well. He's going to be going off. That opens door for Luciano Wittmann and Grutter as well, who's going to be on the outside coming into the penultimate corner up towards the 5 up the sub curve. This is going to be a bit dicey, coming straight into the pit lane. Kramers comes. I thought Blankenberg was going to as well. Instead, he's going to go for a bit of a drift at the sub curve as he continues on. Brown won't be too far behind. A couple of flashes of lights from Blankenberg. He's not really enjoyed that lap, to be perfectly honest. It's a big slide from Grutter. I think Blankenberg might instantly fire one straight down the inside coming into the hairpin.
I don't think he's going to wait around for any other mistakes. He's just going to try wherever he can. Outside line into turn 2. He's not going to get anywhere there, but maybe in towards the hairpin. Yeah, I thought he was going to the pit lane there as well. He probably should have done. With the battling he was finding himself in, and the battle that now he finds himself in once again, he's just getting himself into more traffic. But he is going to try and get through once again here for 7th City. He looks to the inside, but just seemed to run out of steam and top-end speed towards the end there, towards the hairpin.
Yeah, like I say, just doesn't really have the guts to kind of get on with it in the engine bay, but nearly got there to the inside of Grutter. I think he'll have a couple of laps and he'll find his way through. Luciano Wittmann, though, is the man on the mission at the moment. That he's trying to jump some of those that have already pitted is Luciano Wittmann, so he might see him staying out to the end of the pit window sequence rather than trying to cut over some of the drivers that have already come into the pit lane. Also, by the way, Parvan and Zabdir now separated not only by 2 seconds, separated by a driver as well. Soltesh has kind of dropped off the rear end of Parvan, obviously yet to come into the pit lane. There is that Porsche 911, and Zabdir, who again was battling with Parvan, has dropped way off the Romanian through the pit window sequence. Whether we'll have the pace to come back as the race goes on, we'll have to wait and see. You can see Rosie with that completely damaged Merc in the background.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too surprising that Soltesz now is finding himself within those who have pitted already, because his pace is a good second at least slower than those around him, as the two Mercedes of Wittwert and Blankenberg come into the pit lane, approaching half distance, trying to split this one equally in half. We'll see just how much longer it is going to go on for, just see how much longer the likes of Max Pfeiffer at the very front of the field is going to wait to come into the pit lane. But at nearly 7 seconds of a lead, it is looking very good for him right now. Well, Wittwert come out though, that's the important thing. It's a long way behind the likes of Parvan and Zabdir.
Yeah, I've got to say, Zabdir nearly got around the outside there. Soltesz coming through the first corner. That was a very, very brave move. Also, it's way too deep here. Surely that is way too deep. He's not going to have a great exit, and that Ferrari should be able to clear the Porsche on the Parabolica. Should be able to grab himself up in a 14th position at the moment. The Hungarian ailing a little bit, going from one side of the circuit to the other, trying to break the slipstream, trying to hold the defensive lines. Zabdir's got to go the long way round here. It's going to have to be a very bold move. Two drivers in two very different races. There we can see the early braking move there from Soltesz, and that's Zabdir up into 14th position now, trying to close down in on Parvan. You can see how far the likes of Stretemans, Luciano Wittwert and Blankenberg have come out from this train. Luciano Wittwert, though, jumping Blankenberg quite significantly there.
Oh, Zabdir so late on the brakes again into turn 8. I really don't know what it is about today, but there's a lot of out-braking going on. Fortunately, Zabdir will hold on there as Alex Mosin comes in. But yeah, we're just going to have to see once again where we go from here with this. Parvan close to the back of Cherderon, just up in front as well right now. I think with Mosin coming in here, it's going to be very it's going to tell us a lot here with regards to where Parvan is versus Mosin, because of course Mosin did come into the pit lane from very near Vermeulen.
Well, let's take a look at what Parvan could get up to. He's closing in on the next one, this one being Cherderon. At the moment, 10th position it will be, because Botti and Brown have come into the pit lane. They'll drop down the order. This could be a big moment for Parvan, who started out the race so strong, dropped off a little bit through the second portion of those first stints, and now is really getting on with it. He's no longer the highest placed driver, though, that's made a pit stop, courtesy of Mosin's joining down the pit lane. So he's now in 8th position. Obviously, was running in 3rd at the moment. Parvan was originally running in 5th before the pit lane sequence. So we'll see where he ends up. Of course, he was running behind Mosin, behind Sunel, behind Vermeulen, and our race leader Pfeiffer, who I've got to say, the last couple of laps, that gap has come down from Pfeiffer to Vermeulen. It was around 7 seconds. It's now come down to 6.8. It was 7.5 seconds, really, to being fair. It's come down to 6.6, 6.8 seconds. That's quite significant, really, when you think about it at this point in the race. We've just ticked over halfway. There's not long left to go, realistically, but if that gap starts coming down, it can become a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I mean, it's not come down very much, and Pfeiffer's still in the mid-39s at the moment. I think he's going to be absolutely fine with the gap that he's got right now. He has done this in the past, of course, did it on 2 occasions last season, and I'm not expecting this to be any different for him, as Hook comes into the pit lane now as well from 4th place at the time. And I've got to say, Parvan is a lot further behind Mosin than I thought he would be in this race. 7 seconds behind. He was a lot closer than that, so I just wonder whether Parvan's early stop and finding himself in traffic has not really benefited him, because he's been battling with all sorts of drivers. Guillaume Vigneron has found that today as well, as he tries to make his way up to 16th place.
Oh, out way too deep there. Sen coming into the final couple of corners. Vigneron now looking to pounce on that mistake. Sen just driving it in a little bit too deep. It's so easy to do at the penultimate corner. It drags all the way into the final. You're trying to get on the power early. And it just doesn't work. The front end doesn't stick once it goes into boat mode. It stays in boat mode. And Vigneron nearly bit off a little bit more than he could chew in that, in a little bit too deep on the brakes, coming down into T2 as they drive their way through back out onto the Parabolica. Vigneron's looking pretty hungry. Like we said, we know he's a driver of quality, not starting out the season the way he'd want. Gotta say, the Mercedes don't look too bad when it comes late on in the stint. So if you look at the likes of Luciano Wittwert as well over that first stint, the Mercedes, the Mercs look pretty good over the longer run, shall we say.
They do. They do still look a little bit under par as regards to actually going for a race win, I feel, here. it's not a race-winning car, not on this circuit anyway, but it is getting better as the day goes on. And it seems that Vigneron certainly is anyway, whether this is down to his car or him or a combination or neither, I'm not entirely sure, but he seems to be getting just stronger as this one goes on, although struggling to find a way through. And this is more like what I expected from the GT3s, actually. I was expecting a lot of trains, a lot of pairs, actually, and a lot of people struggling to get through on one another, excuse me, and Guillaume Vigneron is certainly experiencing that now.
Well, Mosley goes back up into third position because Sunel, Grota, Fachet and Peter Chak all into the pit lane. The top two, realistically, post-pit stop, based on where they were running pre-pit stop, they were running first and second, they should theoretically come out in first and second. But Mosen's using this to get on after it. Remember how you were talking about some of the lap times that Vermeulen, or rather that Pfeiffer was doing? Obviously it was mid-39s as well for Vermeulen. Mosen running in the higher 39s. I think Vermeulen might be pulling out an even larger gap on Mosen right now. It was around 2.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's difficult to know really at this stage. I don't think this is a move from Mosen to try and get ahead of Vermeulen, certainly not ahead of Pfeiffer. However, I think it is a move just to cover off that third place to make sure he's out in front of Sono. I think he would have been anyway, but I think he was just making sure that he stays in that second place. Sorry, that third place. And Sono and Parvan won't be able to get through or even challenging for this because at the moment he's not quite losing enough time. Parvan's lost a bit too much in this pit stop cycle, really, although there is still more than 25 minutes to go.
Everyone trying to get around Vutric at the moment, battling for 22nd position, a fair way off the recent pitter of Peter Cech at the moment, about 6 seconds behind, looking to the inside. Jedron's going to try and fire it in way too deep there from Vutric, though. It's just going to drive, both of them are going to drive way off the circuit, or towards the exit of the circuit, shall we say. Jedron coming out on top in all of that. It's a bit dicey in all of that. Just 3 cars yet to stop. Unfortunately, we've got another retirement to add to the list in Florian Arend, so we did see some of the issues. We did see the spin, shall we say. I mean, it was tapped around coming into the second corner from Florian Arend. I don't think his race went in a positive manner after that point, a couple of laps in. And so unfortunately for the Austrian, down the order in 30th and now out of the race. Bit of a shame, but that's sometimes how they go.
Yeah, it is, and it is a real shame for anyone really who can't get to the end of this race, although maybe it's a relief to some if you're having a real miserable time down the back of the field. But either way, yeah, it's never nice to see as Vigneron is still struggling to get through on Sen right now, and I do get the feeling he's not quite on top form here today because it does seem to me that he's off the pace a little bit. His best lap at the moment, not even in the 39s. He's struggling to get through on a number of drivers. He's just not making any inroads despite being in the slipstream here, but not being close enough for a dive either. Although he may have put Sen off enough there, outbraking himself, and now this is the chance for the Frenchman.
Well, this is the thing, if with the hairpin, if you run it in too deep, well, you can have that beautiful drive off the corner and bang, that is the position held by Sen. But I get the feeling that Vigneron's going to look to the inside, instantly coming down in a Mercedes, into the Mercedes arena. That position not picked up at the moment. If anyone's having a bit of a question, obviously, when it comes to running the distance in this race, being 60 minutes, and having the mandatory pit stop, that mandatory pit stop, they don't have to put in that much fuel, really. You'll have the cars essentially filled up for a majority of the races. Vigneron's going to try and send it all the way around the outside of the Sachs curve. I wasn't expecting that one. Big send from Vigneron, straight around the outside of Sen, and boom, 12th position goes the way of Vigneron. Whilst I was chatting rubbish, he makes that one stick. I wasn't expecting that.
Well, no, it's never expected really on the banking there. It just obviously helped you out a little bit on the high side, but it is still unexpected just because it's so narrow, especially the Mercedes is quite wide really, and you often do come into contact when you try that, but on that occasion, Vigneron made it work, and he is now up into 12th place. He does look quicker than Sen. We're just having quite a lot of trouble actually overtaking him. And I get the feeling that Rosen is going to experience similar difficulties here because I can't imagine that Mercedes is one of the faster in the speed traps right now with a gaping hole in the front.
remember you commentating on a move very similar to that one on a small name Mr. Shane Van Gisbergen around here in LMP2 about a year ago. That was a big move. Like you say, trying to channel some of that as our race leader comes into the pit lane. Max Pfeiffer brings it down to the lane, brings it down to the pit lane speed. So does Axel Vermeulen as they come around. 23 minutes and 10 seconds left in this race, not 2/3 of the way through yet. There's still plenty of time whilst Brown sends it down the inside of Hennig at the moment. This is 16th position right now. You've got Ichazzo as well, one of the early stoppers in that Red Bull Ferrari, also joining into the mix.
Yeah, I think that early stop has benefited him. When you're really far down the order, when you pit, you don't actually end up in traffic like we've seen with some of those a little bit further down. So it has actually benefited a little bit more than for some others. Has Mosin really made any time here? Well, he has got a bit closer to the leader, actually. Pfeiffer only now just over 8 seconds in front of him, but I still don't think that's going to be of too much concern. I think Sono, the gap to him is much more of a concern. Even then, it's not really very concerning. So Mosin is just going to take this one to the line for a nice podium, I think. But is that gap between Pfeiffer and Vermeulen going to come down enough here? Just over 6 seconds. I mean, I think he needs about 2 hours to close that kind of margin, really.
Yeah.
Pfeiffer is just difficult to catch.
Also, I think Pfeiffer's underdriving it. Particularly, so I think, obviously there's the gaps come down around a second, right, over the pit lane sequence. I can almost guarantee where that's come from. And it's not from a difference in stationary time or anything. I would probably say, I'd put a bet that I think Max Pfeiffer was a little bit more cautious on pit lane entry. It's a tricky pit entry here. To bring it around that final corner, you then accelerate in the pit lane or the pit lane slip road towards the speed limit, and then you slow down. So you're braking, slowing down for the penultimate corner, accelerating, and then slowing down again. It is a tricky pit lane to get bang on. And if I'm Pfeiffer, if I'm leading by that kind of margin, well, I have it on my shoulders that I can take it a little bit easier. I can lose myself a second by being a bit too cautious. Absolutely fine. Whereas I think Vermeulen might have been full risk on the pit entry. So I think that's where that second's probably disappeared.
Yeah, quite possibly. And you just saw with the onboard cameras there, I think a bit of time is being lost on the road as well. Pfeiffer not quite pulling that one out or pushing that car to its very limits, as Alex Margaritas has gotten a drive through penalty for speeding. But yeah, I don't think Pfeiffer is pushing that Bentley to its limits. And you just saw how smooth he was when we were on board with him just there. How he was just able to ease the car into every single corner, just flow through. It's not the best flowing circuit at the best of times, the Hockenheimring, really. It's not a great one to drive, if I'm honest, but that Bentley is making this circuit look quite good. The way it is just kind of flowing into the corners, the way he doesn't even seem to be pushing that car at all. It seems like it could run like that for days and weeks on end, the way he's driving that one at the moment. Barely going over the curves at all, barely pushing it to the very edges of the circuit like you would see normally. Pfeiffer is keeping this one in reserve at the moment, and there's few better cars than the Bentley to be able to be in this situation with.
Looked like Margaritas, by the way, got a bit more than a drive-through, got a DQ for speeding the pit lane, becomes the second DQ of the race along with Devakulas as well, and essentially a third retirement from the race, with Florian Arendt also being dragged with them. As we'll look back down the order, 23rd position at the moment. Dreyer, Rokas to be closing in on all of this as well for Trix, who we saw battling with Chedron, dropped now back behind and way off, 3 seconds off there is Chedron coming through the foreground of shot. That BMW is not fourth position, that one being Leandro Cairel, who's just trying to unlap himself from some of these positions. Good to see the M6 out there. I do like myself a bit of the M6, prefer it over the M4. We've been through this about 1,000 times in other broadcasts, but still do like seeing the M6 out there. It doesn't look fast though, I will say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, saying that you prefer the M6 over the M4 is like you prefer one disease over the other, to be honest. It's not great.
You not like the M6?
Z4. It's just.
Oh yeah, I really like the Z4, which I just never get. The Batmobile looks horrible.
It's wonderful. You should agree with me, I think. But anyway,
absolutely not.
But anyway, yeah, it's just trying it out. And as we said before, RaceRoom, not only in the WTCR that we had earlier, but also in the GT3s, has some of the best variety with regards to car selection in sim racing, to be honest. There's such a great selection, and the GT4s especially, which are very undervalued, and underrepresented in a lot of sims. RaceRoom has absolutely gotten pretty much every GT4 under the sun onto the service and balanced them out quite well as well, as we saw with the first season of the Ranked Championship a few months ago. So yeah, it's a fantastic variety you get at RaceRoom. It's one of its biggest strengths, certainly. The fact we can get such different cars well balanced here on this circuit, as we're seeing with the top 5 still different manufacturers for the moment.
Yeah, and then if you look at the TCRs that we just had, a fantastic summary in those as well. Hennig trying to defend from Machazzo, Fachette as well trying to get involved but backs out of it. There's the big send down the inside from the Red Bull Ferrari, sends it in, drives it off the circuit, and that is the position made from the Argentinian man up to 17th position. Hennig though under serious pressure. Fachette's got to the inside, has a little bit of a rub coming through the fast kick towards the Mercedes Arena section. The Callaway moves up a position as well. Got to say, do love me seeing some of that Callaway action. Boom up into 18th spot.
We have seen those kind of moves at turn 7 and those kind of side-by-side moments going wrong. So it was good to see the two of them making it out there, although I do believe that Hennig will really just let the Corvette go through and just let him have that one a little bit, because otherwise they were both going to end up in the wall or spinning around like Wittmann, although maybe they wouldn't be complaining too much if that happened to them, because it was quite spectacular. But either way, they managed to get through quite nicely. And this is the kind of battle that we'll see throughout the rest of the race, really. A little bit further down in the order, not quite as important in terms of being inside the top 10 and fighting over loads of points. However, still very interesting nonetheless. And it is slightly strange to see some slightly bigger names towards the back, especially like Alessandro Botti is only just in front of those guys.
Here comes Scoot down the inside, trying to grab 6th position off of Zabdir, who I thought was more going to be going on the attack for the top 5, but Scoot grabs it. The Ballas Esports man up now into 6th position. Zabdir drops down to 7th when, like I said, I thought he was going to be attacking for a top 5 in that Ferrari that looks pretty decent on the long run that's being shown by Axel Vermeulen, but Zabdir not taking the full advantage, might be dropping back into the clutches of Straightmans, and considering the pace that Luciano Wittmann's been showing as the race has been going on and on and on, I would not count out the Dutchman that's currently sat in 9th position from grabbing a little bit more in this race. We know of Wittmann's experience within the, particularly within the esports scene. As we said before, with the likes of Gianmarco Federici and Pavel Makonnen being drivers that have taken part, of course, in things like the Cooper Sim Racing Series and the esports WTCR Championships, as well as what we had recently with DTM Esports and the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championships as well. Luciano Wittmann is in that boat, is in that camp as well, as Botti grabs a position on Sen. Sen looks it straight down the inside though into the Sachs curve.
Yeah, Sen falling back a little bit. Kremer's got ahead of him as well off camera. So he's really falling apart a little bit in the final moments of this race, the final quarter of this race. Just approaching, you can see even in this visual shot here, I don't know quite what's happened to him, but he's losing time really rapidly over those around him. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right about Wittmann here. I think he's going to finish in 6th place by the end of this one. He's on an absolute charge right now. He seems to be quicker than the 3 in front. It's just a case of getting through on them quickly enough. Whether we can do that or not is anyone's guess, really. But Straightmans is not really going to put up much resistance by the looks of things. Wittmann is forced to the outside lane. He's going to dummy him, then go to the inside at the hairpin. Not really brake late enough. Still on the inside line. He's not going to get a fantastic exit either. When you're on the outside line there, you always get the better exit off the hairpin. And Straightmans is going to try and use that to hold on.
Yeah, V10 versus V8 here. Of course, the V8 power of the Audi R8 dropping back the position on that roaring thunder that Luciano Wittmann has under his right foot. The Mercedes AMG gets his way up into 8th position, 2 seconds behind the likes of Zabdir and Geet. So we'll be closing on that based on the speed we've seen out of Luciano Wittmann. And you can see based on those lap times of 40.1, that is not a million miles away from what we're seeing out of the leaders at the moment. A very, very impressive pace at the moment. Geet's lap time though, 39.7, looking pretty impressive also running down that. And not only that, it was the best lap that he has set on the previous lap. So getting faster and faster and faster races on. Maybe not 6th position for Luciano Wittmann, but surely he'll be challenging for 7th and 6th a bit later on in this race, surely.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I said that, I didn't quite realise the pace that was in this McLaren at the moment. I thought it was also fading away, and Zabdir was just getting gradually even worse. But it looks like, in fact, the Ballas Esports driver is just pushing on himself. 40.3 on that lap, well, not quite as impressive, but he's still very much got 39s within him. And if he has, then he might well just do enough. But we've got to remember, there's more than 10 minutes remaining in this race. That's a fair few laps remaining in this one. I think there's still maybe 8 laps remaining here. So there's plenty of time for Wittmer to get involved. It just depends just how much pace he's got. And really excited to see what he can do in a few weeks' time at the Red Bull Ring. Let's see him qualify a little bit better. Let's see what he can do further towards the front and not have to fight his way through the field.
Yeah, got to say, I think it was the issue. You remember on that the second lap that he was setting, where he had that spin in the Mercedes arena section, that really put a big dent into Luciano Wittmer's qualifying session. So you're absolutely right. See him qualify well next round. I think he'll definitely be battling up there with the likes of probably even Sunel, Mosin, Vermeulen. They'll be up in that battle. I have no doubt. A very talented driver as we look back towards Fiquet and Chatso, who are going to be battling on their way down towards the hairpin at the moment. It's the inside line from the Ballas Esports man, but again, the up and under might well work in the positive towards the Argentinian, who's going to drag himself alongside. He's going to be on the inside going through that ever-fast kick. It's going to be a bit of a brave stuff, not much room between the two of them, just about giving each other room. That is going to be the position made potentially by the German centre in the outside line for the Ferrari. Does not work, and Chatso has to back out of it, and Fiquet grabs over 18th.
Looks like it, but how much longer? Because these two seem so well matched, and they're exchanging positions lap after lap here. It's Fiquet's turn to lead them around, but it won't be for too much longer. It's going to allow Hennig as well to possibly get back involved with Rosa maybe as well. But let's wait and see just how fiercely they fight over the next few moments. It's looking interesting between the two of them, though. Actually, it has got that place for now, and he did shove out the Ferrari just sufficiently to be able to get through there. And he is on the 18th place, but will he be able to hold on for too much longer? Well, he's got a couple of car limps at the moment, so it looks like he'll be okay. Yeah, let's see how it develops. Really, another one of these battles a little bit further down that just keeps toing and fro. These just tend to happen a little bit further down, that people on the same pace find each other, and they do exchange positions quite regularly, and this is one of those fights.
It'll be the same in all of the other splits as well. Of course, there are various other splits, platinum, gold, silver, bronze, where we've got plenty of other races going on, running the same cars around the same circuit in the RaceRoom Ranked Championship 2022, same as what we had in Season 1, what we have in Season 2 as well. Plenty of drivers taking part. It's one of those things that's a big community event. We like having everyone take part. We say this all the time. We do things like the Spa 2.4 hour and whatnot. We love having the community out. We love this side of RaceRoom where we're seeing drivers that maybe we wouldn't normally see battle their way at the front. The joy of the race.
No.
This is Mosin's had a big moment out of the first corner and bang into the barrier. That is going to be a freebie for all those behind. Here comes Sunel in that Audi R8. He's going to fire his way onto the podium. A costly mistake from Mosin, and you've got to say, a completely unforced error.
Yeah, all he had to do for the remainder of this race is just continue on as he was. He didn't even need to set the world alight there with pace. He just needed to keep going as he was, and he would have been fine. He was even pulling away from Sunel in that battle for third, but he's gone off the road in a big way, and that has really stopped him really from getting a second podium in the Ranked Championship. He got one at round 3 in the previous season. He won't be able to repeat that in the first round of this season by the looks of it. It's going to be 4th at best for him. I think it's a case now of how far is he going to fall, because so much damage on that car.
Well, I've got to say, our broadcast director, Captain Coffee, Chris Day, of course a member of the community that I'm sure plenty of you know, the level of curse on that, unreal. Cuts to Mosin, bang, first corner we see him go through, straight out into the barrier. That car is damaged quite significantly. The thing is, though, I will say, consider the speed that we saw, at least for the first few laps, with the damage that was on Rosen's car. Of course, that one being front-engined Mercedes AMG. I'm sure Mosin's car is pretty damaged here. Will be limping. There is less than 10 minutes to go. 9.5 minutes left to go in this race. Realistically, that'll be 4 or 5 laps left in this race, depending on where the leaders are. I think it will be 5. I wonder if Mosin will drop back behind Parvin. I think he might have the speed to potentially hang on. This lap will be the critical one. This will be the one where we'll see how much speed's left in it. But look, he's not exactly dropping off of Sunel, is he?
No, not really. It's I have to say, I'm very surprised. I mean, on this previous lap, of course, he will have lost a fair amount of time. But what can Parvin do here? I guess it's much up to him as well. Because after all, Parvin has been losing time over this stint to Pfeiffer. I know the Bentley out front has been very quick indeed, but Parvin has not exactly been setting the world on fire in his charge for the 3rd place. His early stop really hasn't worked. He's given himself quite a lot to do here. The gap is 4 seconds up to Mosin. You're absolutely right. This lap is going to be very important. in terms of figuring out just whether we have a race on between these two or not. But the way Mohsin is standing up to this one at the moment, it looks like he might be able to have enough here. Even on that straight there, he was pretty fast in a straight line despite the damage.
I think Parvin's earlier stop, there was less so to go on the attack of the podium, was more so to keep the likes of Zabdir at bay and try and break that kind of gap and kind of hold the advantage that he had. I think that the fact that there might be a fourth position on the cards, that's kind of giving a little bit extra push. I think there's going to be a third place for Parvin. I don't think he's quite quick enough. I've got to say, a very impressive start to the race, but those couple of laps that followed it may be less on the impressive side as we go back to the battle for 6th place. Gut Zabdir, and guess who's knocking at the door? Of course it is. It's Luciano Wittfurt. He is there. He's charging, and the three-way fight for 6th position is about to be turned up to 11.
Absolutely. I mean, at the moment, Hoyt and Zabdir are not going slowly. They have done good lap times over the previous ones. It was a 40.0 on the previous one. What's it going to be this time for the McLaren? 40.1. Once again, very strong. But Luciano Wittfurt is into the 35s, into the 39s, into the mid 39s as well. At some points recently as well, he's closing in. And so it's not a case of the two in front slowing down, as I thought earlier. I thought Zabdir was really starting to tie up towards the end of this race. This is not the case anymore. It's not the case for the older generation McLaren of Hoyt just up in front either. This is Luciano Wittfurt at the peak of his powers, really starting to close in, really just negating that margin right now, and possibly having this push for 6th place.
Let's see if Zabdir's going to drop a position straight away. Luciano Wittfurt's not quite close enough. Way too deep though from Zabdir. Might open the door at the hairpin. You've got to remember the drive off from the Ferrari will be better with that superior outside line. Of course, he's got a much straighter exit, and exactly that. He's pulled clear coming through the kink, but he will be vulnerable coming down to the Mercedes arena section, and that's exactly what Luciano Wittfurt's done. He's taken advantage. He sent it down the inside. He's got the inside coming out of it though. It's going to be fast through the kink. There's a big squeeze over from the Ferrari coming up towards Mobile 1. It's going to be still all positions, all square. Zabdir ahead of Wittfurt after all of that as well.
Yeah, even after that outbraking move, and if Zabdir lost a position as a result of that, he would have been furious with himself, because he didn't exactly put up a great fight for 6th place. He made a bit of a mistake, and in the end just had to roll over. He did not want that to happen again. He made sure he fought back in that fight for 7. However, what this is doing is this putting Wittfurt out of reach for his compatriot there in 6th position. It's difficult to know at the moment. Just under 6 minutes to go. 4 laps depending on where Pfeiffer is. Not entirely sure. Could be 5, but I doubt it. We'll see how many chances we get here for Wittfurt as he really gets out of shape through turn 1. Yeah,
you've got to be a bit careful on that curve, and we've already seen it bite one person fairly recently. I know it was a Porsche, which normally bites anyway, but still, you've got to respect the curbs around here. As much as this is a fairly simple circuit, like you said before, it doesn't really have the greatest flow. It's a little bit trickier on that side of things. It is a circuit not to be underestimated. We saw it before, Formula Sim Racing World Championship. We went to the Hockenheimring, didn't see any retirements. I think it was 1 or 2 retirements. Came here, saw 11 retirements of 2022. Basically, half the field went out because of what this style of racing is, what this style of circuit is. People underestimate the Hockenheimring, and you really, really can't. There are corners that properly bite around here. It is very fast through the first corner, through Mobile 1, into the Sachs curve, final corners as well. And if you have a crash there, 9 times out of 10, you're visiting a barrier.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a real typical German circuit, isn't it, where there's just no room for error. And mistakes are very much punished. It seems to be a trend when we visit this part of Europe and come to this circuit in particular as well. That you don't really often have that much room for error, as we have seen. But same could be said for some other circuits a little bit later on this season as well. So let's wait and see on those. But final few battles starting to filter their way through now. Possibly 3 laps to go as they're running for now. Hard to know. But the final few battles starting to develop, and Alex Mohsin is even closing in for 3rd at the moment. The gap goes below 2 seconds despite the damage.
Well, you can add your vote in, by the way. Do you think Luciano Wittfurt will be taking over 7th position at the moment? Votes coming in. 83% at the moment believe that will be the case, that Luciano Wittfurt will be taking over 7th position. I have made my vote, and it is very solidly yes. I do believe that Luciano Wittfurt will be making this move. Zabdir, I think, might be a sitting duck It's just whether there is enough time for Wittfurt to go and catch his countryman of Hout at the moment, who's in 6th position there. The defensive line being taken from Zabdir, straight over to the right-hand side of the circuit, coming through the Parabolica to the outside. Is he going to be big on the brakes this time from Luciano Wittfurt? He's straight around the outside. Is he going to be able to hang on? He makes a little bit of contact and doesn't fulfill his destiny of going all the way around the outside and grabbing that 7th position.
Well, he had the right idea, but Zabdir made absolutely sure he wouldn't have that outside line, and the straighter exit, the better exit off of that hairpin there, made absolutely sure that he would stay in front in this 7th position at the moment, and he's done a pretty good job to do so, really, in that place right now. I think it's far more becoming a little bit more obvious now that Wittfurt won't have time to get to 6th place, but in terms of battling for 7th, Zabdir is going to do very, very well to hang on to this place.
For sure. 2 laps to go. 2 more attempts once they cross the start-finish line. 5 is leading comfortably from Vermeulen and Soudal, who are currently on the podium. So now, though, it's actually being closed in by Mosen with all that damage, got to be said. So maybe there might be a fight for the podium despite that Porsche being damaged right now. Then Parvin, who's kind of out a bit by himself in that 5th spot, 6 seconds ahead, 5 seconds behind before we get to this battle. Out a little bit further from Zabdir and Luciano Wittfurt at the moment, but still it's fairly tight. That wasn't a great T1 though, it's going to be said, from Wittfurt.
Wasn't fantastic, needs to be a little bit closer, but this is the all-important corner coming up here, and it was a little bit wide from Zabdir there. He has pulled to the right-hand side though to get the best exit possible, so it wasn't bad in the end for the Ferrari. He did recover it, but still not the dream exit, and now the slipstream will start to come into effect. The Mercedes will start to stretch its legs and get involved. Zabdir will have to go defensive, and there will have to be an attempt here from Wittfurt once again, although he's not as close this time.
Absolute versus Ballas Esports, 2 of them esports regulars in the RaceRoom Racing Experience competition system. We'll see if Luciano Wittfurt can get through. Wasn't done into the hairpin that time by, but I've got to say for Wittfurt, I wouldn't say the hairpin's his strongest effort of making it. I'd say it's into here, the Mercedes Arena section. Luciano Wittfurt has been dynamite coming down to this. Unfortunately not close enough this time by, as they're about to get ready for the final lap of the race. He's going to have one more attempt at that. They've got a bit of lap traffic ahead of them in Thomas Martin. He'll be dropping back behind them fairly soon. Hopefully we'll jump out of the way before the battle really gets too spicy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, his best opportunity may well be into turn 8, but I think he needs to be close. He needs to put Zabdir off through the hairpin to be able to do that. So you can't really have one without the other, I don't think, at the moment. And so that's going to put a lot of pressure on Wittfurt in these next couple of corners to get a bit closer, because call-ups are starting to open up. I just wonder if he's starting to pay for the efforts of the previous hour now. He's been pushing the entire time he's had to. He's got through the field, of course. He's done it so well, but now the car might just be starting to go away from him in the final moments of this race. It's difficult for him. Oh, it's so close as to whether he is close enough.
Well, of the 24 people that vote, it does seem as though the 21% of you that said no potentially might be in the right at the moment. Zabdir doing a fantastic job to hang on to 7th position right now. Luciano Wittfurt, like you've said before, has been charging and charging and charging, and finally it seems as though he has properly met his match. The final lap of the race here in the final first round of the season. Luciano Wittfurt to the outside, coming through the hairpin, might be the up and under. I think he might try and stay close here, Ewan, for a bit of a dive down the inside coming into that arena section.
It's not really close enough. Look at the car-ups here, even at this stage. Not close enough right now. So late on the brakes towards turn 8, and it did get closer, but not close enough.
Well, here comes Max Pfeiffer then out of the final corner. It's domination day as the season begins. It's the same man on top for Door Esports, Pfeiffer all day. Vermeulen couldn't close in close enough to attack his championship rival of seasons past, so now we'll come across the line to grab a very well-deserved podium after a late mistake from Mosen. Parvin, good for 5th place at the moment before we head back to the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th. Hout looks to hang on to 7th, but who's going to be coming across the line rather in 7th position? It's 6th for Hout. It's going to be 7th potentially for Zabdir. The final corner, the move to the inside, the contact, and there's a bit of a spin from Luciano Wittfurt, and Zabdir will cross the line in 7th. Wittfurt though, he's going to lose out not 1 but 2 positions as well as Strayemans and Greta come through. A dramatic final corner, a bold move from Wittfurt, but it just was not enough.
Oh, he gave it all at the end there. There'll be controversy as to whether he was given enough room, whether he made an unjust move maybe on the inside line. Who knows? but Vipper has cost himself 2 positions there, unfortunately, and Zabdir gets away with 7th place. It's going to be certainly talked about and argued about between the two of them, you can be sure, but it's hard to tell really which way to put that one at the end of this race. It was dramatic, it was very entertaining indeed, but Vipper in the end has to settle for 10th place, and it's been a bit of a day to forget really, all things considered. 3 spins in one race.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be said with Luciano Vitfort making a move down the inside. You've got to send it, absolutely. But you've also got to understand the risk. The final corner is a tricky one to lob it down the inside. Ask Zach Sweeney about that one. I think he more drove it to the rear end of someone in the final corner. We won't talk about it too much. But yes, either way, a big send. We'll take a look at the results then inside the top 10. Viper taking that victory from Vermeulen, and so now on that podium. Super performance. Fast lap of the race going the way of Axel Vermeulen. Second in the championship last season. Won the opening round of the season. Not good enough this time with a 3rd spot. Then we've got Mosin, Parvin, Hout, Zabdir, Stretemans, Grotta, and Luciano Vitfort. Fantastic start to the season though, but it was properly dominant from Pfeiffer.
It was. That gap did come down quite a lot in the latter portion of the race, which does kind of give us a little bit of excitement for the rest of the season with regards to Vermeulen. Will it remain the same though between the two of them? Will the two of them just continue finishing 1st and 2nd in every race? And then what are we going to do when that happens on 4 occasions? How are we going to split them? It's going to be very, very difficult to do that indeed. But they're both setting themselves up for a very similar season to what we saw in the GT3's last season in Season 1. And yeah, I mean, are we going to see exactly the same once again? I wouldn't be complaining because it was very interesting indeed. But who can get near them and who can topple them? It's we're scrambling to look for answers at the moment because it doesn't look like there's anyone.
By the way, got to say big thanks to Greg Ortner, who has now been classified as Greg Ortner in chat, for posting the way that you can come and take part in this championship. So many different bits, of course, with the rookie, with the AMs, and then with the pros. So much to come and race in a race room. Fantastic to see. So cheers for linking that one. But it's been an exciting day. We've had 3 fantastic races. What one's been your favourite?
Well, I've got to go with the touring cars, to be fair. It was a very, very exciting one indeed. I really enjoyed it. Maybe I was a bit naive to not expect it, but either way I wasn't. And I was thoroughly entertained indeed. Very much looking forward to coming back on with Cam at the Red Bull Ring to see what's going to happen there. Because, yeah, it's a very, very good place to go racing. Very much looking forward to it indeed. But, yeah, I would say the touring cars took it on this occasion.
Yeah, I mean, I did very much enjoy the touring cars.
You always choose touring cars.
I love myself some touring cars for sure. You know that. It's normally, it would be the one that I race, of course. I mean, I enjoyed all 3 for their own different little things. I know we didn't have the full live stream for the F4s. We did have highlights for them, which will be posted tomorrow also. So you'll be able to catch up that in full to see really what was happening with the F4 rookies, the AMs, the WTCRs, and then of course with the GT3 Pro Series. We will be back in not too long. You don't have to wait too long. It'll be towards the end of September, the 29th this month, before we go racing at the Red Bull Ring. It's been a fantastic opening round of the season here at the Hockenheimring, though. And remember, there is still plenty of the season to go. Daytona and Interlagos to round out round 3 and 4. That is us done from the RaceRoom Ranked Championship here. Season 2 beginning at the Hockenheimring. Thank you for all of you for watching. Thanks to my co-commentators in Ewan and of course Cameron Rodger, who was there for the first race. I've been Lewis McGlade, and until next time, we'll see you then. Have a very warm goodbye.